Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Mickey, fishy.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
The fucking sun sucks. I don't know what you people see in the sun. I don't know how you people do the sun. It's just the dirt worst. I want nothing to do with it. I'd be content never going out in the sun again.
And Rich Craich.
This is the dumbest show. I cannot believe these people. Some people pay us $10 to listen to the show live. This is what we've given them for 45 minutes.
Been doing this for 10 years. Why?
We're bigger than ever. More people listen to us than ever.
Why?
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
What's happening with you, Rich?
Not too much, Joe Lanza. Not much at all. I'm excited about this show. I'm excited about this particular episode of the Flagship. Now, I'm excited about most episodes of the Flagship, obviously, but this episode I'm very, very excited about because we are covering. This feels like a classic Flagship. We are covering wrestling in America. We'll talk about WWE, AEW, Inspire Pro Wrestling, or Inspire AD, I should say, in the independents. We're going over to Japan. We're going to talk a little G1 Climax, a little Yuji Okabayashi. We're talking Mexico, TripleMania, CMLL. We're going to Europe and RevPro. We're going all over the place. I forgot about MLW. Slammiversary is this weekend, and I definitely have not forgotten that multiple times throughout this day, including just that one point where I definitely remember that Slammiversary is this weekend as well. There's a lot of wrestling going on all across the world, and man, I dare you to find another show that's going to cover all that. I dare you. Find another show that's covering MLW, Inspire, RevPro, Mantaur, G1. You're not going to find it. You're just not going to find it. Only here.
That's a huge week.
Big week.
There's a lot going on.
Crazy week in wrestling, man. Yeah, crazy week. Some people might not think so, but yeah, you really dig in here. There's some great stuff going on here. So yeah, I feel like, I know people love the banter, but I feel like we got so much stuff to do. I don't know if we can banter. I think we just got to get into it.
Nah, this is the kind of week that suits our show. It's incredible. I talked to you for 20 minutes before this started, and now I'm having like throat problems and I can't.
You were fine. Properly. You sounded perfect.
Now it sounds like somebody's like gagging me with a
right
throat wire or something.
Dick to go is somewhere around the hell's he? It's getting your G1,
really
getting ready incredible. For the G1 by getting choked by a garrote wire. So
I think I'm okay, but
good.
Yeah, no, it really suits our show because nobody really even attempts to do what we do, and that's cover everything. And we won't get to literally everything, but we're going to try our best. And yeah, it's probably one of those weeks where we have to skip the bullshit and get right to it. But where do you want to start? I mean, there's a lot of different places we could start. There's a lot of different topics that you could argue can be the lead off topic here. So
I think, well, let's, because, you know, if you're a subscriber to flagshippatreon.com, you see our topic and run sheet for this week, and it's absolutely loaded, and it's got just a crazy amount of stuff, and you know, I was kind of debating what's the best way to start. I think it's probably a good way because let's talk about SmackDown and the ratings that SmackDown had for last week's episode with the trial of Roman Reigns, and you know, they've been building momentum over the last couple weeks, and we've been talking about it on this show that the bloodline angle, after, you know, months and months and months, well, hell, years of it really not mattering for business whatsoever, is absolutely on fire to like every degree you can possibly say, in terms of people buying tickets, in terms of people watching on television, just everything, critically acclaimed by their fans. Like, the bloodline stuff is just, it's working in all facets of WWE. And this last week's SmackDown, absolutely crazy ratings here. It averaged 2.56 million viewers on Fox, up from the 2.5 million they had the prior week. That's the second highest viewership of the year, behind only the 2.563 million they got in June 2nd. So total viewers wise, June 2nd was a little bit better, but still, we're talking June to July. I mean, still, regardless, that's a lot of the bloodline stuff still kind of getting those numbers up as high as they are. But the demo numbers, though, are just massive. They were huge. In the 18 to 49 demo, the show drew a 0.76 rating, up from a 0.69 the last week. That is the highest 18 to 49 demo rating of the last 2 years, and it is the highest, this is from WrestleNomics, the highest 18 to 49 viewership since the often referenced NFL lead-in episode on December 25th, 2020, 0.96. So obviously, Christmas Day 2020, there's an NFL game going on that leads right into SmackDown, a big number there. And I know we talked about it at the time, that was like a very weird number that's like, yeah, that one's kind of, you know, people are watching the NFL game and they forgot to turn it off. You know, they didn't sustain those numbers at all. Those numbers dropped pretty quickly thereafter. The next week dropped. It was obvious that was an outlier week. Well, they're not that far. I mean, they're 0.76. It's still pretty far from, you know, 0.96, obviously, with an NFL lead-in or whatever, but just an insane demo number. This bloodline stuff it's fucking working, man. It is working like nothing in that company has worked in a long time.
Two things notable to me. Number one, the segment itself, which ran like 40 minutes or whatever it was, which, by the way, I still haven't seen the whole trial gimmick because Nexstar owns, I don't know if you're aware of the Nexstar DirecTV carriage dispute.
No. Uh-oh.
So Nexstar, which is a media company that owns a lot of local Fox and CWs and even a couple CBSs, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, Nexstar is a pretty big media company that owns a lot of local networks. They happen to own my local Fox affiliate, and they're in a carriage dispute with DirecTV. So I haven't had Fox, and I didn't know this until I tried to watch SmackDown on my DVR, and I had not a test pattern, but like a explanation of why there's no programming on this channel. Like, that's where I learned about the carriage dispute. It affected the All-Star game the other night too. I had to watch the All-Star game like on the Fox app or whatever the fuck. So I still haven't seen the trial. You know, it was one of those kind of deals where it was like, all right, well, I was kind of happy to be off the hook. I was like, all right, I guess I don't have to watch.
Right.
I don't have to watch SmackDown this week.
And it's like, and you haven't sought alternative methods either. Like, there are probably several ways for you to sit down and watch the trial of Roman Reigns, but you're like, my cable affiliate's on. There's just simply no other way in 2023 to watch this segment.
Yeah,
I'd love to, but I just can't.
I gladly took a break from SmackDown this week. Believe me. But look, I went out of my way to
remote
find
on the couch. Ah, shoot. Damn it.
Listen, I just said I went out of my way to watch the All-Star game. Like, I found a way to watch that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the SmackDown
didn't quite get around to it.
That was the world's easiest hand wave. You know, oh well, not going to find that pirated anywhere more than likely. So I'm just going to find that very easily pirated. By the way,
20 seconds easily.
So anyway, the point here is I haven't even seen it, and I'll probably never see it because I just don't have any interest in it. We're not going to do the whole bloodline thing again. We do that ad nauseum every week. People are probably tired of it. They know where we stand on that by now. But that Nexstar dispute, they own a lot of Fox affiliates. I'm not saying it would have had a massive because it would have to be Fox affiliates that Nexstar owns, that also the people that live in those areas are DirecTV subscribers. But there's probably a non-zero amount of people who didn't watch SmackDown this week who normally would have, and I'm sure it affected the rating to some small degree, right? So,
for sure,
they possibly, in my case, it's my Fox affiliate is out of Houston. I mean, it's not exactly a small city, you know what I mean? So, anyone in Houston with DirecTV in the Houston market didn't factor into this number. But actually, my Fox affiliate might be Waco. I'm not 100% positive. Pretty big difference between Waco and Houston. So actually, don't hold me to that. But you get the point I'm trying to make here. There could be, they could have actually done a little better. But the demo rating during the 40-minute trial was almost a 1, not a 0.1.
Yeah,
a 1.
A 1.
So it was like 0.97 or something like that. I'm not looking at it, but it was somewhere very close to being a full 1 in the demo for those 40 minutes. So the other thing, aside from the massive rating during the actual segment that I thought was interesting was, and this is not me trying to, downplay it or downplay, the overall interest in the company or anything, but the rest of the show, you look at the rest of the quarter hours and there's really nothing out of the ordinary. A lot of people did tune out after that trial was over. But we all know the Bloodline's carrying things over there on SmackDown to the point where they were doing, 2 to 2.1 million viewers for a while. And now they're up closer to 2.5 million viewers a week on average. And it's all due to the Bloodline. You look at Raw, and Raw's pretty steady at about 1.8 million viewers, pretty much every week. They're doing good. They're not doing gangbusters like SmackDown is because they don't have the Bloodline storyline on that show. But, Cody's over there doing his thing, and that show's doing fine. But, the entire company is healthy. The ticket sales, obviously. This, I think, is finally a year where I will seriously consider voting Roman Reigns for the Hall of Fame. Because now you have a guy who has a long track record of being on top where he wasn't necessarily moving numbers. But now he's moving numbers in a massive way. It still is only 1 year. Maybe, even a little less, actually, where he was a massive difference maker in terms of ticket sales and television ratings.
Yeah, we're really looking February to July at this point right now, basically.
Yeah, it's less than a year, really, with the massive movement. I mean, it started to heat up before then. But, this is going to be a year where I'll seriously consider looking really close and possibly voting for him for the Hall of Fame. I think that they've finally gotten him over as a legitimate superstar. One area they haven't broken into the mainstream, I don't think, at all yet. And I don't think Roman Reigns has broken into the mainstream at all yet. I see a lot of people throwing around things like wrestling boom. I would pump the brakes on that stuff.
No. Those are people that didn't live through any of the previous wrestling booms. If you're saying right now is wrestling boom, it is not. It is not.
I don't see that at all. I think if
I wish that'd be great. That'd be great for our business. I wish it was a wrestling boom. I would
be tremendous for our business.
Roman, keep it going, pal. Keep this thing going, man. Let's get this thing booming. But right now, no. Right now, it is not a wrestling boom.
Now, this place is doing well. I mean, AEW is about to put 80,000 people plus in a building. They're number 1 on cable last week, and I'm not positive. I don't know if that can't. They were probably number 1 or close to number 1 on cable this week for last night's show, which did basically a flat rating to last week, a little bit down in total and a little bit up in demo. So they're doing great. Warner Brothers Discovery is putting out press releases weekly touting how great that the AEW programming, most notably Dynamite, is doing. And they're about to throw that bucket of money that we've all been speculating on at them very shortly.
And won't stop giving them TV time. There is like 9. When Excalibur was running down all the shows that AEW has this week, I was like, why are there so many AEW shows? He's like, oh, then we have Rampage, and then we have Collision, and I'm like, oh man, it's already a lot of shows. He's like, and then Battle of the Belts, and I'm like, what? Another show? Like, God damn it, Warner, stop giving AEW television. Stop.
Don't keep giving it to him, but I see what you're saying. But
it was just like what? Another show, and it's like, then the Battle of the Belts. I'm like, what? Battle of the Belts
And I don't think, and you know, Battle of the Belts at this point is basically just an hour extension on Rampage. We all kind of recognize that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
still, you know, but
well, it speaks to a healthy relationship. It speaks to the fact that, again, if they were like,
a very healthy relationship.
Yeah, we don't know about these guys, we're not quite sure. It's like, oh, here, just continue to take primetime television slots from us. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the people saying those sorts of things are complete morons. I mean, AEW Dynamite is an unmitigated, massive television success story. Anyone who thinks different is just completely lost and doesn't know what they're talking about. You know, they're fixated on dumb shit like, you know, million viewers a week or what they're doing in comparison to WWE. And all of those things are irrelevant. It's a massive television hit. I mean, it's top 5 on cable every week. It's number 1 a lot of the time. But for the most part, our listeners understand that, and there's no point really wasting. And then, like you said, look at the relationship. They just keep throwing programming hours at them, and it's WBD that's asking for these programming hours. You know, they pitched the idea of what went on to become Collision, not Tony Khan. So, anyway, yeah, it's a healthy wrestling industry right now. It's definitely healthy. I stopped short of boom. I don't know if it can become one. That, you know, who knows? Maybe we can enter another boom. I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. I think Roman Reigns has finally broken through as a legitimate pro wrestling superstar drawing card, which he never really was before. Or at minimum, it was ambiguous. It's certainly a debate you could have with someone.
Right. It tended to be more vague, like kayfabe accomplishments. Anytime, you know, they're like, oh, well, he main evented 7 WrestleManias. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, like, not by merit. Yeah, a lot of it wasn't merit-based. It was just because they were in a post-success world and Roman was the guy that they just wanted to push all of that. So, yeah, it was all the accomplishments that you could go to Roman mostly were things that just happened because, A, the company got, you know, an incredible business and just turned into an incredible business and turned into a money-making machine. Now, if you want to give credit to Roman for that, you can. I don't know if I was really ready to do that.
That's where I'm saying it's ambiguous.
Right. Or like he main evented X amount of things or whatever. Oh, WrestleMania sold 80,000 tickets and he was in the main event. But it's like, yeah, but it sold 80,000 tickets before, you know, he got announced or whatever. Whereas now it's like SmackDowns are selling, you know, later in their life cycle as you know, a week up, you know, there'll be 8,000 tickets left or 6,000 tickets left or whatever, and those get scooped up the second Roman. I mean, they're announcing him and things are getting sold, and that has never been the case before.
And that's what we've always said. Like, they would announce him and wouldn't sell any tickets. And, you know, ratings wise, he wasn't even always the biggest quarter hour mover. And you know, it was, now that's all over. He's a legitimate pro wrestling superstar level draw. That he is now. But in terms of a wrestling boom, I can't say that we're there yet, because even though he's a legitimate pro wrestling star and a legitimate pro wrestling draw, indisputable at this point, he hasn't broken through to the mainstream.
Oh God, no. You know, he could walk down one of these red carpets and nobody would know who he is.
No one's gonna know who he is. You know, you go into a mall and you ask 100 non-wrestling fans to identify this picture and hold up a headshot of Roman Reigns, and you will get 100 people who do not know who that is. I'm confident you'd get 100 people who don't know who that man is.
And 89 of them would say he's Jason Momoa or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so many people would be like, it's Jason Momoa. Yeah, I know who that is. And you're like, no, it's a different guy, but that's fine.
Take a shot in the dark, right? Long hair, you know, whatever. And it's, especially if they can see the body, you know, just take a shot in the dark. But no, it's not like, you know, my wife's in the other room, and, you know, I cover and discuss pro wrestling for a living. She has no idea who Roman Reigns is, and she lives in this house with me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't think we're in any kind of wrestling boom where Roman Reigns is someone who's, you know, has broken through the medium and is now some sort of mainstream star, which is what happens in wrestling booms. Okay. And I understand, and we talk about this all the time with celebrities and whatnot. And I understand things are a little different now and more compartmentalized and fractured when it comes to any kind of type of star. But you couldn't walk down the street in 1986 without, you know, running into, you know, some kind of reference to Hulk Hogan. During the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Dwayne The Rock Johnson were legitimate household names.
Right. They were hosting SNL. They were on the cover of TV Guide, which that was a big deal, trust me, at the time, being on the cover of TV Guide. NWO shirts were just ubiquitous with life. You saw wrestling shirts everywhere. Every store sold wrestling shirts. Insane. If you didn't live through it, it's impossible to call what is happening right now a wrestling boom. It's just impossible. I mean,
no, you can't say that. And it could happen. I don't know. I mean, we could be having a different conversation a year from now or 6 months from now. But right now, I mean, I can't call this a wrestling boom.
Right. Is it healthier than it's been in a very long time? Probably.
It's extremely healthy.
Yeah, probably.
Healthy. Yeah. Yeah, it's extremely healthy. And But to kind of transition off of that, do you have anything else on the SmackDown rating?
No, it's just it's pretty wild. How these numbers are really getting there, and I know that Dave Meltzer's been kind of tracking it, that he's looking to see if SmackDown. I don't know if this week it became it, or he's thinking that maybe this next week, or if the momentum continues, that they'll just legitimately be the number one show on television on a Friday, which is just, I mean, it's just.
Well, I guess, when you look at the writers and now the actors strike.
Yes.
So now I've seen a lot of people attribute that to the WBD push for more content out of AEW. And while you can't discount it wholesale, I genuinely don't think it has much to do with that. I think that Warner Brothers Discovery had what you described as that healthy relationship with AEW before any of this became a massive factor in Hollywood. So I don't think their attempts to get more content out of Tony Khan, including the pay-per-view stuff that we'll talk about later in another topic, are entirely chalked up to that, like some people are saying.
Can't hurt though. Certainly can't hurt. If in a couple weeks or in a week or so, they're going to be looking around and saying, "Well, shit, wrestling's still here, like it was in the pandemic," and that is probably one of the things that kept AEW in as good a graces as they were with WBD. Not that there was anything that could have really jeopardized that we've seen, but running throughout the pandemic, not taking a week off, always delivering live I mean that. We've heard from people that said that in their minds, it's like, wow, that, those guys did us a solid. The wrestling company did us a solid because they didn't stop. They didn't go away. They could have. They found ways to do it. They worked around it. They did whatever, and they delivered. They didn't miss a week. They did not miss a single week of their television show, even during a global pandemic or whatever.
The heart of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And neither did WWE. And, I don't want to bang on people too hard who in the moment when there was a lot of confusion and nobody really knew what COVID was, and and in real time we thought it could fucking kill everybody. No one really knew what was. In hindsight, we understand it a little better, and but there were a lot of people at the time who were very critical that AEW was running every week and thought that Tony Khan should shut it down. And we were saying at the time on our little shows, while you were on lockdown, and we were doing the shows in the afternoon. Remember that? We were doing the shows like on
3 p.m.
because you were home.
I was home, man.
Yeah. And we're doing live shows in the middle of the afternoon talking about Big Japan and fucking 2AW. And one of the big talking points was AEW should shut it down. We know Vince isn't going to be responsible and do it, but Tony should be better than that. And our argument was, no, they'll cease to exist. They can't shut it down. They just, they won't exist anymore if they shut down. They have a contract and they have to honor that contract. And look, and now it's paid off in other ways, So, anyway, something I wanted to get to was, so with the Bloodline being red hot, and Roman Reigns is going to win the Flair Thez MVP award in a walk. Number 2 it's going to be one of those awards where it's like he has 11,000 points and number 2 has like 700 points. It's going to be one of those. He's just going to absolutely destroy everybody. That is the award that is the all-encompassing pro wrestling MVP. It takes into account drawing power, match quality, who's the biggest star in the business, who has the best promos. It's the all-encompassing award, and he's going to win it. He's going to win best box office draw as well, which is not an award that people vote on anymore, but I can't see Dave Meltzer giving that award to anybody else other than Roman Reigns.
I'm not sure if there's anybody even in UFC that could, because
Roman Reigns is running away with that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Meltzer, I don't follow UFC enough to know that anymore, but there's nobody moving business like that, right?
No, Roman's getting that award. Even if it was a voted upon award still, which I think it still should be. I was always someone who felt like you really could vote on that award. he would win in a rout. And I think Meltzer undoubtedly is going to give it to him. So he's going to win that. He's going to win the Flair Thez MVP. He has no shot at most outstanding. That one he's not going to win. I don't even think he'll place in the top 10.
No, and he doesn't deserve it either, to be honest. I mean,
the
Roman matches are fine, but they're with Will Ospreay still doing Will Ospreay things and Kenny Omega still doing Kenny Omega things and numerous guys across the world. No, there's no chance in hell.
Yeah, and I mean his matches to their fans, those matches are great. But they're not great for the traditional reasons that they're great because of the storytelling that they're doing and the performative stuff and the theater and the mid-match promos, and their fan base eats them up. But they're not the kinds of great matches that are going to see Roman place well in something like Most Outstanding. And I don't think any of his matches are going to do well in our Match of the Year poll. And I don't think his matches are going to do well in the Observer Match of the Year poll or any major Match of the Year. They're not going to make a dent in the top, but he's going to win the MVP. And probably deservedly so at this point. But I do think there is a wrestler that a lot of people are either overlooking or aren't aware of, where you can maybe make a case that this person should win it and not Roman Reigns. And I think if I had a gun to my head right now, I'd vote for Roman Reigns just based on his insane drawing record that he's put up this year. But I think Mystico is a lot closer than a lot of people would give credit for, and a lot of people listening to this show might be surprised that I'm even bringing up that name, period. Now, if you're on top of CMLL, the way that I've been, Rich, I've watched every Friday night show all year. I've watched every single one of them. I've watched random matches from the Guadalajara shows and the other stuff that pops up that have been, because I'll ask Cubs fan, I'll ask Rob Viper, I'll ask people in our Discord, hey, anything, this is going to be a familiar question to people I've asked this to, but I always say at the end of the month, hey, is there anything that wasn't on Friday that I need to see? And then I watch all of those recs. So I've been on top of CMLL more than just about anybody. Okay. I've watched everything every Friday. This guy, Rich, they put 10,000 people in that building every single Friday, give or take a couple, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, a couple hundred here. There's 10,000 rowdy fans in Arena Mexico every Friday night. And he is without question the biggest star in these shows and almost always in the main events. And this is, it's not far off where he was. What year did he win wrestler? Did he win the Flair Thez?
I want to say 2006, but let me make sure.
05 or 06.
Yeah,
or something
I want to
like
say 6, but let me clarify that before as we're moving on. But continue your point, and then I'll find it.
That's when he was really peaking as a
2006.
as a
2006.
2006, when he was the biggest draw in the world and one of the biggest stars in the world, and he really broke through. We all know what happened with the WWE run. We all know he had some bumpy years. Coming out of that, not having rights to the name, going to AAA first, then getting back with CMLL. But after all of that, Mystico's back, and he's back to, putting 10,000 people in that building every Friday. CMLL is having a great year. And, I have to tell you, is he my favorite wrestler that I've seen in CMLL this year? No, he isn't. I would put, I think, whether it's Teton, especially if you throw in his New Japan stuff, or Templario or Hechicero, who I'm going to talk about later. I've enjoyed, and there's probably some others where I've enjoyed just the work. But when Mystico wrestles, and especially in these main events, he owns the building.
He's a god.
And
he's a god in that building.
And Rich, that's 10,000 people every week. And that's not the only night they run the building.
That number counts. Those people count.
And that's not the only night they run the building, and it's not the only building he's working. It's not the only matches he's working. And, I don't think that there's a strong number 2 contender for that MVP award in AEW. I don't think there's one in New Japan.
No, there's, and that's actually, I was going to interject and saying, like, AEW, there's just nobody that you could, I don't know who you could reasonably, if you wanted to say, I'm going to vote for somebody from AEW. Like, I don't know who that person is. I mean, who's consistently drawing business, who's, if it's an all-encompassing MVP award, not just, hey, this guy's really good, or hey, this guy has good matches or whatever. No, it's who's actually moving business in that company. And it's not CM Punk, it's not Jon Moxley, it's not Kenny Omega, it's not the Bucks, it's not, Jericho, it's not Bryan Danielson, it's not MJF. No, it's nobody. I mean, I don't know that you could reasonably vote for a person for me. If you're voting on the actual letter of the law, what the award is supposed to be about, what the actual ethos of the award is, you kind of, I hate to say it, but you kind of have to vote for Roman. Like, right now he's definitely the leader in the clubhouse in July, July 13th. He's, to me, the unquestioned one if you're going to vote in America. And yeah, if you want to get a little cute and say, hey, hold on a minute, what about Mystico? I think he is as reasonable as a Roman Reigns.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't even think it's getting cute. I think he's a legitimate contender.
Yeah.
And people will read this as, Joe Lanza, he don't like Roman Reigns and he don't like WWE. And it's really not about that. It's more about what Mystico is doing more than what, trying to discredit Roman. And it's trying to let our listeners know, and maybe let some people know who don't necessarily pay attention to CMLL or Lucha in general, that what Mystico is doing some special things down there. I don't want to compare it apples to 06, but, it's not far off. And now, he just started up this feud with Teton last month. And, that's going to be a big feud. And they've got a lot of hot feuds going into the anniversary show. You've got the Teton Mystico thing that they're heating up. You've got, Hechicero, those guys just, his boys just turned on him, and they're building maybe a match at Mephisto at some point. And then you've got the Dragon, Rojo Jr. and Templario thing that's starting up. And then, you have Angel de Oro challenging Volador to a hair versus hair match. And I'm not saying all these matches are going to happen at the anniversary show. And then you've got Soberano Jr. Soberano having a tremendous year.
So
I didn't even mention
everything I've watched of him, I've loved. Yeah, he's probably my favorite CMLL guy this year.
Yeah, that's it. He might be the best worker to me in the company all year. And he didn't even come to mind when I was naming people earlier. That's how good that the CMLL stuff has been. And the Volador Rocky Romero feud that kind of just wrapped up as Volador moves on maybe to Angel de Oro and that issue, which was, carried the feud, which carried a lot of those Arena Mexico shows from January. And then the Fantastica Mania show, it just headlined on June 30th. But Mystico is a legitimate Wrestler of the Year contender. His star power is undeniable. And CMLL is really doing some great things. And I just wrapped up watching all of the CMLL from June. So I just want to run through some things real quick and give people some recs and what they should keep their eye on.
And this will be a part of your write-up as well, right, at our Patreon?
Oh, yeah. So the June Notebook Roundup is coming. I was actually going to write it the other night, but I haven't seen the Fantastica Mania show yet. Okay, and they're airing that on Friday. So that's the delay on that article. I like my goal is to always have it out by the 15th of the following month. So that still could happen. It's going to be tight, but I didn't feel like I could write that article without having seen one of the biggest shows of the month. So I want to make sure I watch that show first. And the framework of the article is written, though. It's the last thing I have to watch from the month. So yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because the Notebook Roundups are something that people have really enjoyed. And that one is coming for June after I watched the Fantastica Mania show.
Good,
the Mexican,
because I'm behind. I'm behind on CMLL myself. So yeah, I looked to that, and I was going to try to catch up in the last couple of days, and then I realized, hey, Joe's going to have the roundup, so I'll know what to watch, and you're going to do it in this segment here as well, so I'll know what to kind of watch, because I've been behind. I've been watching other stuff, been kind of busy with some other things, and I've been like, man, I got to get back in on CMLL, because we talked about it, a month or so ago. We talked about how just awesome the company had been in the first half of the year, and I don't want to fall off from that. So that's good that's coming there. FlagshipPatreon.com, by the way, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, coming in the next few days. But go ahead if you wanted to do the recommendations. Look, now.
The January, they had a great January, an incredible January. We talked about that. I know you saw a lot of that. I thought their May was their best month since January. And I think that June, now that I've seen all of it with the exception of that one show, this may have been their best month all year, at least in Arena Mexico. So, the highest recommendations for some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. And a lot of it isn't necessarily like great matches. A lot of it is just they do so many good week-to-week little stories that start one week and pay off the next week. You know what I mean? And when you're watching a wrestling promotion, that's really all you can ask for. Because there's been periods of CMLL that we all know where there's been no care put into the booking. We all know that. It's just the Friday night shows are these random things for the tourists, and they don't put any attention into the hardcore, what the hardcore fan's going to think about it. And that really hasn't been the case this year. We've seen a lot of week to week, like, for example, on June 2nd, they did the trios title change. Atlantis Jr., Star Jr., and Volador Jr. They beat Euphorio, Hechicero, and Mephisto for the titles. And the finish was Hechicero and Mephisto having some miscommunication. And so they lose the titles to the Technicos, and then Hechicero cuts a promo afterwards. I assume he was talking some shit on Mephisto. Mephisto cut a promo back, and then, they came to blows. And Euphoria kind of stayed out of it. You know what I mean? He kind of stood off to the side and was like, all right, sometimes brothers fight. I think that was the idea behind it. So I'm just going to let these guys go at it. But then the next week, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, on the show on the 9th, they had these, was it the 9th or was it the, so they did the best 2 out of 3 falls. Mephisto, Hechicero, Mano a Mano. They're going to have their singles match the next week after coming to blows. And towards the end of the match, Euphoria comes down, and then him and Mephisto jump Hechicero and beat the shit out of him. So it's like, that's what I'm talking about, where it's kind of like they build from week to week on these stories. And again, both weeks, Mystico in the main event, and just over like a motherfucker in both of them. And that was the week where Mystico was on the opposite end of Teton in a trios match, and they really got their feud heated up at that point. The next show was on the I guess the 16th, and this is where we had Mystico Teton in the main event after them challenging each other the week before after the main, and Mystico beats him in the best of 3 falls main event, which was probably the best match I've seen so far in a month. I went notebook on it. I went 4 stars on that. So, and then they had a trios, I think, the next week. What would the next week have been? That would have been 23rd, right? 16th, and then 23rd. Yes, let me pull up the 23rd. So on the 23rd, they were on the opposite end of the trios in the main event. It was Dragon Rojo Jr., Teton, and Volador against Mystico, Soberano, and Templario. And they did a great finish, okay? They trade the first 2 falls. And then on the 3rd fall, okay, they had someone gets pinned. I forget who it was. But, it's either the captain has to get pinned or the other 2 guys have to get pinned, right? So one guy gets pinned on one team, and then another guy gets pinned on the other team. It's Volador. Volador gets pinned, and then I think it was maybe Templario, who then was immediately pinned by Dragon Rojo Jr. So they're out of the match, right? And it's like, now it's 2-on-2. And then Dragon Rojo does a dive on Soberano to the outside, and now they're just on the outside on the floor. So it's down to Mystico and Teton, who I think are the captains in this situation. So Volador tries to get involved again, and the referee's like, "Oh, no! You were pinned. Like you got to stay out of this." It's So while the referee is trying to keep Volador out of the ring, okay, Teton rips off his own mask and throws it to Mystico, and then falls down and does the Eddie Guerrero deal, and is like covering his face, right? So then the referee turns around and sees his mask in Mystico's hand, and he sees him on the ground protecting his face, and he disqualifies Mystico, and they win the 3rd fall, and they win the match. Teton, Volador, and Dragon Rojo, which is not a unique finish. We've seen that finish before, but it's done just sparingly enough that when you do see it, it's great. And it really worked in this scenario because it really got Teton over as like this, this scummer who hasn't been able to beat Mystico, right? And he knows he can't beat him, but he took the opportunity to take the cheap way out and beat him by DQ in the trio. So, and that was something that had been built from the previous 2 weeks. So I thought, they did a really good job with that too. And now, obviously, they might be building towards another singles match at some point, maybe even at the anniversary show. I don't know. But Titan's a guy who has broken through this year, obviously in New Japan, in Arena Mexico. We talked about Soberano as a guy who's broken through. Mystico's doing his thing. Hechicero is now teaming with the Technicos in a lot of these matches. On the show on the 23rd, he teamed with Ultimo and Gran Guerrero. And on the other side was Cavernario, Euforo, and Mephisto. So he went up against his boys.
He seems revitalized a little bit too, because there was that year, 5 or 6 years ago, where he was really, really good, and everybody was hyping him up. And then it seemed like, after watching him the last couple years in between that, it was just I don't know. I got it when people said that one year that he was really, really good. And then I don't know, it just didn't click the rest of the time I was watching him. But yeah, for whatever reason, coming back this year and watching him, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm alone in that, but he just feels really good. I don't know what it is. He just kind of felt revitalized or whatever. It might just be the company itself just feels hotter. It just feels like everybody's trying a little harder. Kevin Ario the same way. That was a guy that was a sensation for a while there. And then there was a couple years where everybody was just yeah, I don't know, maybe that was it. Maybe he just kind of peaked. And now he seems like he's a little revitalized. So it might just be that people are just, excited about the company and the wrestlers themselves too, involved in that as well.
You got to watch the turn. You got to watch the turn and
definitely
ensuing matches. Because he's over as a face now in that building. He's getting over, and he was the right choice. If you were going to break up that group, he was the one that you're gonna want to go technical with. There was no doubt about it. So that's something exciting that's going on. There was a match too. I'm going to give people one more. There was a match on the show on the 9th an undercard match that really stood out to me because it was a bunch of guys I'd never seen before, or at minimum don't remember watching very much of. And that's the other thing. On all these Friday night shows, you get these cool lightning matches, and they often feature freelancers or undercard guys who don't typically get to work Arena Mexico, right? Or maybe they don't get to work Arena Mexico too much on the Friday shows, or maybe they're outsiders. Like one of them this month was Raider versus Diamond. And I didn't know anything about those two guys. And it's not like they went out there and had a match of the year. But I came away very impressed with Diamond as someone who had a real main event look. Like, he has a great look. The work, but he's someone who I think, obviously he got their attention. They put him on a Friday show. They put him, in an opener. And he's someone that I think, if you get behind, maybe there's something there if the work comes around. And, he was Raider was the Rudo in that match, and he won the match. But there's always I never skip those lightning matches, even when they're people, especially when they're people I've never heard of, because it gives me a chance to see some fresh talent, and they're always, and you're in and out. They're 10 minutes. I mean, the whole concept is it's a one fall 10-minute match. So, it's not going to eat up a lot of your time either. But anyway, on that show on the 9th, there was a Rudo team. It was, I want to see if I get these names right. Defunto, Fioria Roja, and Zandokan Jr. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, Rich. I don't know anything about any of those guys.
No, I don't, believe it or not, I do not know any of those men.
I don't think I'd ever seen any of them wrestle. Just glancing at their cage match, it looks like, again, these are freelancers that were given a big opportunity. Or undercard guys, whatever the case may be. One guy doesn't even have a cage match profile, and I don't know if that's because of a changed gimmick or, whatever. And, they took on Ray Samurai, Stigma, and Guerrero Maya Jr. Guerrero Maya Jr., who just won the vacant middleweight title earlier in the month, by the way. But these three Rudos had so much charisma. And I'm watching this match just thinking to myself, I don't know anything about these guys or what the deal is or the politics of it, but to me, they earned themselves a spot. I mean, they blew me away, and it wasn't, their work was great, and you could tell that they knew that this was their opportunity. Like, how you can tell sometimes that guys just know, all right, I have to impress people. The working shoes were on, and their charisma shined through. And, a lot of times with these prelim matches, the crowd isn't super into it like they are later on. But these guys got the crowd into their match, and I thought they were super impressive too. And I went 3 3/4 on that match. So that would be on June 9th if people are taking these recs.
That sounds right up my alley. I got to definitely check that out.
Yeah, so that's the same show where they had the Mephisto Hechicero best 2 out of 3 falls. And look, the main events on these shows, they're usually like, I don't know, 3-star specials, but it's Mystico, and it's all about his charisma. It's all about Him being so over. And then, like I said, they've been kind of meaningful during the course of that month because they kicked off the Teton feud. So, and, the match on the 23rd where they did the DQ finish, I went notebook on that too. I thought that was a fantastic match. It was Rojo Jr., Teton, and Volador Jr. against Mystico, Soberano Jr., and Templario, a lot of the guys who have just broken out this year. And that's when they did that mask finish I talked about. And, that's another one that's going in the notebook and that I'll probably write about when I write up the June stuff. So I haven't seen the Fantastica Mania show yet, and I will watch that as soon as I can. And I haven't watched any of the July stuff where they've been, that's where they shot the angle with Dragon, Rojo Jr., and Templario and Angel De Oro challenging Volador to the hair match. So I haven't seen any of that stuff yet. Because I think we've had one show. We've had the show on the 7th, and then there's a show tomorrow as far as the Friday shows. But the Fantastica Mania show, which I don't think a lot of people have seen unless they ordered the pay-per-view or were watching it live because it's just not available anywhere yet.
Yeah.
I hear that the Rocky Romero Volador Jr. match was great again. The one in January was great. The Mascara Dorada, the new Mascara Dorada
2.0.
I don't know if you're aware of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
2.0.
Panterita Del Ring has been given that gimmick. There's a new Drago in AAA, too.
Oh, boy. Is he Drago 2.0 or is he just Drago?
No, Drago switched gimmicks, and there's a new Drago in AAA, too. And I don't know if you saw this. The other Viano's son is
Viano 3 Jr. Right, Viano 3 Jr.
Yeah, the one that was with AAA, he jumped to CMLL. So now they're both in CMLL, and they're getting booked together. So there's a lot going on. But the new Mascara Dorada versus El Desperado was said to be great. I got to tell you, the Lightning match with Tiger Mask and El Satanico, I am so interested in seeing. El Satanico has got to be almost 75 years old at this point. But
yeah, he's got. Let me see how
he's 73.
Wow. Jesus.
So apparently they went to a time limit draw. So I have perverse interest in that. El Satanico at one time was considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. I don't know how many people know that. At one time, probably, 30 years ago, but maybe even more at this point. But still going. But that show, LIJ was on that show. So I can't wait to watch that. And then I can't wait. I'm waiting. I don't want to watch any of the July stuff until I see that. I know that there was a tag match from one of the Fantastica Mania shows that was put out on CMLL's YouTube. Not sure which one it was, whether it was something from Guadalajara or I don't think so. It was something with Despy. Let me see if I could find it because that's actually out there free and legal right now. Let me pull up Despy's matches from the tour and see if I can figure out what match that was. And I think that was an excellent match too. It was Despy and Hechicero versus Dookie and Templario. I'm pretty sure that match is on the CMLL YouTube right now, and I've heard it's pretty good. That was from the 2nd, which would have been the Sunday show. So, and then as I said, I'm pretty sure the Fantastica Mania show from the 30th is airing on Friday. So that's
I'm looking at their YouTube right now. That match is available. If you look it up, it uploaded 2 days ago. You'll see it says El Desperado and it says Hechicero and El Desperado versus, and then the title cuts off. But that's the one. So if you go in at 25 minutes and 20 seconds, and all most of the stuff that you're talking about is available on their YouTube channel as well. The Fantastica Mania is not, but their YouTube channel is very good. If you're looking to try to jump into CMLL, YouTube channel is pretty solid. Of course, the Notebook Roundups is a great way to find out, things to watch, and also luchablog.com, who just does obviously an incredible job, writes previews and reviews for us. But does an incredible job of giving you results. And so if you look at a video and go, I don't know what the hell's on this show or whatever, it's always a good idea. That's what I always do. I look at the date, then I go to luchablog.com and I see, okay, that's the matches that are on this date or whatever. Okay, this is the match I'm looking for or whatever. Then I'll watch that or just put them on. But a lot of this stuff is available. A lot of the stuff is available for free on their YouTube channel. So it's very, very accessible.
Well, and it's not even a secret. If you go to Lucha Blog's Twitter, he's got a link to his drive right there on his Twitter page.
That too. So, if there's anything missing on the YouTube channel, you can also go to Lucha Blog's Twitter, and you'll be able to find it pretty easily too. So. And
he's got everything on his drive, so all the stuff that you can't find on their YouTube page. But anyway, that's going on CMLL. I felt like I should run through that because I really thought June was an exceptional month for them. And by the sounds of it, they're off to a great start with some of this stuff in July. And of course, that's all going to lead up to, what is it, the 89th? I think it's the 89th.
I believe they are on 89. Let me see which year they're on at this point. I believe that sounds right to me. Let me make sure, because it's not 90th or 88. 88 maybe? No. It's I think you're right. It's 89.
It's 89. So hopefully we get a lot of those matches that they've been building here for the anniversary show. Who knows? They might pay off some of it before then. We still have a ways to go. They may go different directions with some of this stuff, but we'll see. Teton Mystico, that has the potential to be a really big match.
Wait, so I think we're done. It is the 90th. I believe it's the 90th.
It is 90?
It is the 90th. Sorry, people. Yep, Saturday, September 16th, 90th. We got it. Sorry.
Okay, so it's 90th.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, we're going to get all kinds of corrections in the chat in about 4 minutes.
I'm typing it right now. We got it. 90th. We got it. We got it. It's all right. We got it. The 90th. That's a big deal. That makes sense. Because if you go to the YouTube channel, there's all these videos of black and white videos of all these other guys. But they obviously have so much history. So yeah, why not embrace it? But yeah, 90th is a big one. And 90 years. They've been around for 90 years. Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And almost didn't survive the pandemic. Almost didn't. I mean, they almost didn't do it. It's people say, if you go, that was the closest that company in the 90 years that it was around was to just saying, you know what, fuck this. We're done. It's over.
It was dire. I mean, you tried to watch some of that stuff in the empty Arena Mexico, and it was really brutal. And, they're always up and down booking wise, but right now, they're doing, it's not just packed crowds every Friday. Those crowds they're great crowds too. I mean, they're into all the top stuff, and Mystico is like a god. And it's really been a great promotion this year. I put them on the short list of the best promotions that I have watched this year. It's you got to have AEW there, and I might have CMLL number 2. I mean, if I really think about it, has there been another promotion that I have personally enjoyed more than I've enjoyed watching CMLL? And the answer is probably no. RevPro would be in the conversation. Other than that, I don't think there's anyone else that, for my personal taste, have even come close.
Yeah, I like a lot of wrestling right now, but consistently the companies that always deliver, there's not a whole lot of those. There's a lot of ups and downs from a lot of the companies across the world right now. Yeah, from the first half of the year that I saw, CML was right up there. I'd like to get back and watch, obviously June and try to start following in July a little bit more. But no, I mean they probably are. Yeah, they're in that running for sure. They're not going to get their love. They won't get enough love in the Observer Awards these days. That's impossible now. But yeah, it's good that you do bring them up, because I know a lot of people and there has been discussions on our Discord or whatnot where people are talking about Flair Thaz and Wrestler of the Year and stuff, and people saying look, we got to talk about Mystico. We can't just say it's Roman's award, forget it. It's nerd shit, but hey, it's the Observer Awards. It's nerd shit. You know what I mean? That's okay to do nerd shit, but people need to be aware of what's going on there. I mean, you can't just ignore Mexico and just say that's Mexico, whatever. That dude's drawing those houses. That guy's that star. That guy is main eventing all those Arena Mexico shows, and they're all selling 10,000 tickets. That matters. That has to matter. So, and also
the best he could do is probably second, but
at least be in the conversation. Let's talk about him. Let's at least give him that give him the decency of talking about him in this conversation, which he absolutely does belong.
I mean, look, as someone who watches nearly everything, I don't watch any Joshi, so I can't speak on any of that. I don't watch Game Changer, but outside of that, I pretty much either watch everything closely or have my eye on everything else in the world. Okay? I'm telling you right now, there's no one else I would vote for over him if you're leaving Roman out of it. There's no one in AEW. There's no one in New Japan. And outside of those two companies, you're going to be hard pressed because the other companies aren't big enough for somebody to win something like an MVP award, right? The other companies aren't big enough. There's nobody in Noah. AAA, which I guess this is a good transition, is a train wreck this year.
To put it lightly. Yes.
You go from one lucha promotion that's been well booked, is having great matches, has a lot of hot feuds going, runs a hot building every week. And then you got AAA, which can't get out of their own way. and you picked a good year to hand wave it because,
man, did I.
Rich, it's been bad. And I have to tell you, I watch all these matches. I do the notebook roundups. I've got one AAA match all year in my notebook.
Oh, with that roster. Look at that roster. There's so many good wrestlers on that roster. One?
Well, and you might be, that's the thing. And you might be saying, well, Joe, and by the way, it was in January.
Right. Okay. And it's July for the record. Yeah.
And it was Commander versus Jack Cartwheel, if people are wondering, from the 21st of January. But, people might be saying, yeah, but Joe, admittedly, you're not exactly, right on top of everything that hits tape from AAA. And, you would be correct if you brought up that point. But how about somebody like a Rob Viper? You think he's keeping an eye on everything coming out of AAA?
Of course.
I would say so.
Yeah.
He's got, just on his personal list that I'm looking at here, because he puts up a public blog, he's got Commander Jack Cartwheel from the 21st at 4.25. I think that's the exact rating I gave it. And he's got that in his high-end match of the year contender list. Okay. With, 7 or 8 other matches, most of which are CMLL, and then one big lucha match. And then he has the next section, which kind of like matches that are borderline 4 stars, which is how he does it. And there's only one AAA match on that list.
And he watches everything.
So this isn't just Joe Lanza's not watching enough AAA. I'm sorry, he has 2, which is the same point. It's not just Joe Lanza's not watching AAA. And no, AAA is not having a good year by anybody's standards. Then I'll go down to his next listing. Then he does something called Fun Zone, where he doesn't really give anything a star rating, but I guess it's just stuff that he thought was cool. Right? There's about, 30, 40 matches listed there. One AAA match on that list.
Oh, no.
It's just, there's nothing happening. So on his entire list of notable matches for the year, ranging from high-end match of the year contender to fun, he's got 4 total AAA matches listed the entire year. So my list of 1 is pretty complete. It's also the only one he thought was great. So that's just to give an example of someone else who watches a bunch of lucha. I mean, AAA is an absolute disaster from both an in-ring standpoint, a booking standpoint. They're still telling us Roosh is going to be in this fucking match.
Right. Is he? I don't know. Nobody knows. I guess.
I mean, Roosh in LA Park, because the deal is they're in the finals of this tournament.
Right. They have a show, by the way. There's a TripleMania this weekend, July 15th. It's one of the fake TripleManias. It's not the real TripleMania. It's one of the weird ones. It's in Tijuana. It's this weekend. It's on Fight, voicesofwrestling.com/fight, by the way. There is a preview available at voicesofwrestling.com, but it starts off. I will read the first lines of the preview to kind of give you an idea. Then, Joe, I'll let you have the floor here. But Cubs fan wrote the preview for us, and he, as well, watches everything, similar to Rob Viper, watches everything that happens in the company. He starts his preview at voicesofwrestling.com. Says AAA rolls into Tijuana on Saturday, a shambling mess as ever. The card's headlined by a replay of one of the matches of the year, a big tag team match that may or may not happen, and one of the most popular Mexican wrestlers against an AEW comedy heel. It doesn't quite make sense. It's AAA. It never does.
The match that he's referring to is Pentagon Jr. versus QT Marshall.
Yes, which is a real thing happening. Yes.
And by the way, I mean, this show has Vikingo versus Kenny
Omega. The main event, and if you did not know, which I'll be honest, I didn't. I mean, I didn't until earlier this week. Vikingo and Kenny Omega, is your main event.
It'll go on last. The drawing match, of course, is the Roosh LA Park.
Right.
To see if they advance. It's one of those deals. They're taking on Sam Adonis. Yeah, I mean, it's Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown on the other side, and the idea is, it's one of those deals where the team that advances, then they have a singles match. they're basically trying to sell you on the idea that Rush and LA Park are finally going to have their hair versus mask match. Okay. Which I think, most observers felt like it was going to be Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown, quote unquote, advancing anyway, whether Rush shows up or not. But that is like the drawing match of the show. But we don't know if Rush is going to show up. It's Rush, and it's LA Park. It's not so much LA Park this time, but it's Rush, and I don't fucking know. They don't know. Who knows? Maybe Rush doesn't even know. I don't know. He's been a perfect little soldier in AEW. No problems out of Rush in AEW, But with AAA, he's going to pull his because AAA is a fucking shit show from top to bottom. The booking, everything. I mean, the booking's a mess. It's just someone said this in our Discord earlier today. I thought it was hilarious. They're like, Conan has the biggest balls because he goes on his little podcast
Right.
every week and tears apart the booking in every other company in the world, mostly AEW, because him and Disco, that's their shtick. And he's like the worst booker in the world.
It's like he's booking a company with all the resources that you could possibly imagine, booking them into absolute oblivion.
He probably is the worst major league booker in the world. I mean, I that's pretty safe to say. They're not even drawn well. I mean, it's a mess. There's people in our chat saying the weekly TV sucks. I mean, there's just nothing. But listen, you're going to get Vikingo and Kenny Omega. And that's, undoubtedly going to be phenomenal.
It will, but also the production of AAA is fucking awful. It's so bad. Every time I get locked and loaded to watch one of these fake TripleMania shows or a real TripleMania show, I'm quickly reminded that, oh yeah, this is another reason why I cannot stand this company and despise this company, is that the production is fucking terrible. Like you'll get, and I don't know if that's the case, this show hasn't happened yet, so we'll see, but a lot of times watching their shows, like, the commentary is awful. It's Hugo just screaming the entire time. They have Hugo's commentary over the loudspeakers, so you just hear him screaming over the loudspeaker. You have to watch the match from the fucking surface of Mars because they cut to the widest shot you've ever seen, the longest and the widest shot you've ever seen in your entire life, because they want to make sure that you get as many of the ads and stuff and the scrolling billboards and whatnot in the background. It's not even a very good experience to watch. Like, even the Phoenix Vikingo match from last year that, a lot of people were like, yeah, this is great. I watched it and I didn't feel anything because I just thought the production was so fucking terrible for it. So yeah, I always have to go in with a little bit of a, hey, you know what? I'm excited about this match. Hey, it's Kenny versus Vikingo. And then remembering, oh right, I watch these shows and I fucking cannot stand the production of this show.
Yeah, well, I mean, anyway, that's your top three. The Rush match that may not happen. Pentagon Jr. versus QT Marshall in an ambulance match.
An ambulance, yeah, you forgot to mention it's an ambulance match as well, the always exciting ambulance match.
And then Vikingo and Kenny Omega for the AAA title. And then there's a bunch of stuff on
the rest of the show stinks, man. The rest of the show's got nothing.
It's AAA. It's just a bunch of multi-man matches, and it's matches with a bunch of people in them. Bodies will fly around, tables will be broken, and you'll just be watching it like glass-eyed and like, what am I watching? Like, so they got another Copa match with all, the bunch of guys in it. Willie Mack, Mr. Iguana, Jack Cartwheel, Dahi Ejla, Flammer, Miss Disease Jr., Puma King, Nino Hamburguesa, one of my least favorite wrestlers in the world.
Oh, terrible.
Dinamico, Gringo Loco, who's going to catch a bunch of people in this match, Laredo Kid, Taurus, and then a mystery man. Maybe more than one mystery man.
I'm sure there will be several mystery people. Whoever shows up will and this is the battle royal thing that goes on for 2 hours and a total waste of your life every time you watch it.
And there's some really good wrestlers in there that you can do some really interesting things with. But it's Conan's
alas, it's Conan. So
well, nevertheless. We got a women's 6-person match here. Team Mexico, Lady Shani, Dalis, and Sexy Star, not that Sexy Star, versus Team Rest of the World.
Team Rest of the World. I love it.
Camille, Natalia Markova, and Viva Van. So I know Rich will be locked into that.
Oh, absolutely. Camille, Natalia, Viva. Yeah, no, I'll be there for sure.
So Vampiro, who on the last big triple
retired.
AAA
Did he retire?
Got mad because I think, was it Chessman? I think it was Chessman.
Sure.
Went after his head and he didn't want to get, worked. And so he just decided to stop working, rolled out of the ring, shook his head, and said, "I'm not. This is
Joe. I far be it for me to bring this up, but I thought I remember this man retiring last year at one of the TripleManias. Well, am I incorrect in that my memory of said retirement?
See, we're making light of this, but I think the guy might need the money.
Okay,
and we all know he's got, what is it, the early stage Alzheimer's? Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
And he's got all these other physical problems. He should not be taking bumps. As noted earlier, he got mad because someone tried to do a drop kick or to his head or a punch, and he just stopped working in the middle of the match and just shook his head and rolled out of the ring. It was an absolute farce, one of the worst matches of the year. And we talked about it. Like, if you want to help this guy out, okay, but why are we booking him in matches still? Can we pay him to do commentary? Can we pay him?
No, please, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty bad too.
No. Don't say anything we can't take back. Just pay him. Just give the man money and tell him, thank you for all the service. Thank you for the years of service, sir. Pat him on the back and tell him that he could just go home.
Can he be a manager that doesn't get physical? Can he be an on-screen authority figure?
Sure.
Can he... It's AAA. Who cares?
Can he be backstage and help guys out with their matches?
Yeah. I mean, to put him in these matches, it's like, I don't know. I'm sure he's not saying no, but it's like sometimes you got to protect people from themselves. And I don't know. So it's Vampiro, Jack Evans, and Aramis versus Pagano and La Rebellion. So I'm sure it'll be fantastic like the last time Vampiro wrestled. Then we've got a Atomicos match, Rich. Little 4-on-4 action with Negro Casas, Chessman, Argenis, and Daga. The always not exciting Daga.
One of wrestling's least exciting wrestlers ever, which is shocking. Like it's, and you kind of forget. The thing with him is you always forget, and you're like, Daga, here we go, and then you're like, wait a minute, right? He sucks.
He is the new Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal.
Right.
Not the one that became Lord Steven Regal.
Not that Steve Regal, yes. The other Steve Regal, where you're like, all right, here we go, Mr. Electricity. And then you're like, all right, yeah, bell rings. And then you remember, oh, right, he's absolutely boring.
The other territory, Steve Regal, who was, most notably in the AWA and some other places, who his name was a rib because he certainly was not Mr. Electricity. Anyway, Daga is like the jaggiest jag who ever jagged. I mean, you don't get jaggier than Daga. He should be Jaga, right? Like, his name should be Jag. I'm going to call him Jaga from now on. I just came up with that on the air.
No, you did not just go. No. You've done that same joke like 7 times. He's
really?
so boring. Yeah, I'm positive you've done that joke before. I'm positive.
I forget my own bits.
Well, he's so forgettable that you forget your own bits about him, I think. You have done the Jaga bit like 5 times. I promised last year when we previewed one of the real or one of the fake TripleManias or whatever. I'm positive you made that same joke.
Or something.
I'm positive you made that joke before. Yes.
All right. Well, he's Jaga,
and you're going to do it again next year. We're going to preview another. You might do it in September when we preview the real TripleMania. It might happen again. So carry on.
Well, now that you've completely humiliated me, I will tell you the other team.
Well, you were so proud. I just wanted to knock you down a peg. You were so proud.
I was proud. I had a big smile on my face and everything. The opponents are Nicho El Millonero, which of course is Psychosis, Damien 666, Ray Horus, and Extreme Tiger. Again,
that could be good, but it probably won't be. So
a lot of name talent on these shows, a lot of big stars. You could do a lot of interesting things. You just got a giant blob of guys doing a bunch of stuff and all.
Extreme Tiger, pretty fun, pretty exciting. Yeah, let's have him, brawl with Chessman. All right, sure, great, whatever.
It's.
And we give a singles match to QT Marshall.
Ambulance match, no
An
less.
ambulance match,
which I'm sure has been, because of Conan's, top of the line, pristine booking standards. I'm sure it has a tremendous build.
Oh, unquestionably it does.
Ambulance match. It's more than likely just some kind of backdoor deal that QT Marshall cut to get on this show somehow, and they had to squeeze him on there. And I'm sure the story's hilarious how he ended up on the show. But I like QT Marshall. I think he, outside of the QTV pre-tapes, which have been abysmal, he's been a really good ringside manager in AEW. Takes a lot of big bumps. I think he adds to the matches on the outside. I just don't. This is just such a bizarre match.
It's like Cubs fan says in his preview there. It's like Pentagon Jr. is like one of the top stars in Mexico. Like you can't find anything else for him to do but an ambulance match with QT Marshall.
You know what this is? This is right down to the stipulation. It's something that a 14-year-old books on his WWE 2K create a wrestler fed that he posts on YouTube, right? Like you'll see Pentagon Jr. versus QT Marshall ambulance match, and it'll be real pictures of the guys, and you're like, when was this? And you
I must watch this, and then you look,
and then you realize
you look at the percentages, you see a lot of thumbs down, and you go, uh oh, here we go, and then it's like
yeah. Because at least a couple times a year that tricks me, and then you click, and it's someone's 2K fucking booked fed video game fed.
Great
that's
comments.
The kind of match
always the great comments. Do I always go back and scroll at the comments where they're just like, "Fuck you, go to hell, screw you." It's just, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Because the thumbnail's like the actual people.
Or it's like, a clip from the match too. It's like a screenshot from the match. You're like, oh, okay. Because sometimes there's the clip of like the match graphic, and those I'm always weary of. I'm always a little dubious about. But then there's like a screenshot from the match, and I'm like, I don't know. That sure looks like it's the match, and then you click, it's like, coming to the ring now from Pensacola, Florida, QT, and you're like, God damn it,
got me again.
Fuck.
Yeah. Fucking horse shit, If it's Fire Pro, I might stay a couple minutes.
Yeah, see how it works out. See what happens. Yeah.
See, are these good edits? They do a nice job here, or are these?
Yeah. How is this QT edit? How's this QT edit doing? So.
Yeah. Does he have a real move set here, or is this just some bullshit? So, Anyway, that's TripleMania. Which is this going to be a Rich Craich watching it from the cubicle special?
TripleMania. I'll watch Vikingo and Kenny Omega from the fucking surface of Europa or whatever. How far you'll be.
So your AAA self-shunning is still active.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else on the show. I'll watch the final two. If Roosh shows up, I'll watch that match, and I'll of course watch Vikingo. You can't not watch Vikingo and Omega. You have to watch that match, and I will of course watch Roosh in LA Park if Roosh actually shows up, which I think as of this hour he is, but that could obviously change next hour. So I as of this recording, he may or may not show up, and we don't know, and nobody knows. I'm not sure if he knows, to be honest, if he's showing up or not.
What did Cubs write in his preview?
Cubs wrote in his preview the exact line here. He was definitely, I think he was cautiously optimistic about Roosh's attendance at the show.
Cautiously optimistic. I'll take
fucking
it.
AAA, man. It's
fucking shitbag promotion.
So bad, and he knows it too. I mean, that's the best part. Is he's like, okay. There's still a lot of suspense. Again, at voicesofwrestling.com, there's a lot of suspense around the circumstances of this match. Like, is Rush going to show up? Rush announced he quit AAA in early June. AAA didn't acknowledge it. Wednesday, Rush announced he would wrestle here after all, out of respect to all the fans who cared about this rivalry. AAA didn't acknowledge that part either. Rush doesn't seem to care much about working for AAA past this show, and LA Park probably isn't sticking around either. They'll both be back in AAA again someday, but for this TripleMania day, these two figure to be in full last day of school mode. Anything is possible.
Okay, I'll take it.
So he quit AAA, and AAA didn't say anything. Then he said he'll come back, screw it, I'll wrestle, and they didn't say anything either. So I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
game time decision for Roosh.
I'm going to be all over this on Saturday. I'm going to tell you what.
Voicesofwrestling.com/fight, by the way. Make sure you order it on there.
And if the Reds drop the first two to the Brewers that weekend, I'm going to be grumpy when I'm watching it too, which will make for a much better review come flagship time.
Is our boy Larry Dallas doing? Are they doing an English commentary on this one?
I have no idea,
because that changes everything. But
yeah, well,
I don't actually know. I don't know anything about this show. Nobody knows anything about this freaking show. So
Larry's going through a bad breakup, and he's been posting like song lyrics on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
so I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe he'll be in a bad
okay,
mood
so I think he might actually be doing the commentary, because the latest tweet he has, it seems like he's in better spirits now. Says, quote, I love Hugo, but he sends me information for meetings, then says something like, it's 1 p.m. Mexico time. And there isn't a time zone called Mexico time.
Perfect.
It's exactly.
Perfect.
That's
encapsulates
it. That is
the preview.
That is it. Hugo saying, meet me at 1 p.m. Mexico time to his English commentary partner.
Perfect.
And that's it. And he doesn't know specifics of what Mexico time he's referring to. Just 1 p.m. Mexico time. Meet me there. And who knows what they'll discuss. Perfect. That wraps it up. So there you go.
Larry's also, he probably is doing better because Larry Dallas definitely has the kind of energy where he's the kind of guy who probably woke up one morning and said the following phrase to himself: the best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody. That's the Larry Dallas.
Does sound like a Larry Dallas phrase. So
that's definitely a phrase Larry Dallas has lived by in the past, and maybe that's why he's in better spirits. Maybe he's that's the tact he's taken with this rough breakup. But we wish Larry Dallas the best in getting over his heartbreak. We've all been there. And hopefully he's in better spirits for this TripleMania commentary, which, by the way, he's very proud of. He loves doing the commentary for TripleMania.
He does a good job. He does a good job.
People listening should love anything as much as this man loves doing wrestling commentary. All he wants to do is be part of the biz and do a little commentary. And he's got his little AAA gig. He still stays, arm's length with Dragon Gate. We'll see down the line. But guy loves the wrestling. But how about the Lucha Hour opening up?
I know. Yeah. Try again. That? Find me another fucking show that leads off talking about SmackDown and the Bloodline and uses that to seamlessly transition into a 35-minute segment about CMLL that uses that to go into a 30-minute thing about TripleMania Tijuana in the first hour of their show. Find me another podcast that's going to do that.
Rich, you're really feeling yourself today.
I'm just saying. Find me another show that's going to do that.
I mean, they don't. Those shows don't do that. They don't do that. They just talk about the Bloodline for 2 hours. That's what they do. Maybe a little, burying a AEW, but
getting mad about Tiger Drivers or something. But
did you see what Will beat Leon Slater with?
I did, yeah. And
we'll
weird.
get to that.
It's weird because you can't find people that were very upset about the sanctity of professional wrestling and safety of professional wrestling. You can't find them with a search party this week, even though a big time move got used in that match. Apparently, the most dangerous move in wrestling history got used, and pretty much nobody said anything about it. It's strange.
Well, nobody watched,
but yes, with that caveat. But there you go. That was the Lucha Hour. Yeah, start talking about the Bloodline, moving to CMLL and AAA. I jokingly told people that we were going to start with Lucha on the show. I didn't really think we were. I truly thought that was going to be like third hour stuff, but I'm glad. Yeah, kicking it off TripleMania and CMLL. We'll have reviews of TripleMania as well. There's a big CMLL show this weekend as well. Tomorrow, actually, the 14th. There's a preview up at voiceswrestling.com. Atlantis celebrating his 40th anniversary in wrestling, so he'll be there.
All right, so let's briefly touch on this. The death of Mike Halac / Mantaur / Bruiser Mastino.
Tank.
/ Tank. Many different gimmicks that this man wrestled over the years. Most people would probably know him as Mantaur. He passed away. Do you have any details on this man's, he was apparently 55 years old?
Yes, 55. So he had been battling diabetes for a very long time. And I think apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, hadn't been exactly treating it maybe the best way and just sort of letting it go and apparently passing his sleep at age 55. So,
yeah, so he had a career in the 90s where he probably bounced around to more high profile places than you would think. Obviously, he was in the CWA in Germany and in Europe, where he wrestled with his brother Cannonball Grizzly, which of course he went on to become PN News.
Cousin, I believe they were cousins actually.
Cousins, okay.
Cousins,
so
yeah.
I knew there was some kind of relation there. But anyway, they toured the CWA together and
had to be a hell of a family reunion, man. Imagine playing basketball at the family reunion with those guys. It's fucking Mantaur and Pia Nude.
Yeah.
Big boys. Those are big boys.
Yeah. So they worked that promotion for a number of years as Bruiser Mastino and Cannonball Grizzly. And what's interesting, too, is one of the big stars there at that time in the early 90s was Rambo, who, of course, we come full circle, was, I believe, Sniper of the Truth Commission.
He was, yes.
He was one of them.
He was one of them. I always forget which one is which, but I think you're right.
He was Sniper. I think he was Sniper.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So those guys had a wrestling relationship even before they were both part of the Truth Commission 5 years later or whatever it was in the WW. Was it F? Was it still F?
Yeah, it was F, yeah.
Yeah. So the Truth Commission, I wanted to ask you this because you're more locked into that era than I was.
Yeah.
Was Tank an original member or did he come later?
He was, I forget. I don't think he was an original member.
I don't remember him as an original. I thought the original was Jackal, which is Don Callis, Sniper, which was Rambo, Recon, which of course was Bull Buchanan, and Kurgan, who was the interrogator.
I think there's a weird thing too because they did technically debut in USWA. And I forget who was there in the USWA. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if you want to count that thing. I don't, honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I think Tank was an original member. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Was original.
I think he was original. I don't think Jackal was an original member because remember they had another dude that had like a
Commandant.
Yes, the Commandant was the original guy, and then they got rid of him, and then I think that's when they moved him out and put Jackal in, if I remember correctly. So I think it was Recon, Kurgan, and Tank, I want to say, were the originals, and the Commandant, which was an actor, I think that Bret Hart. I think he was doing something in South Africa. I forget what he was filming, it wasn't Lonesome Dove. I don't know what the hell he was filming in South Africa, and brought this guy back with him and was like, we got to give him a job or whatever. So the Commandant became the manager, but then I think he was sent away, and then the Jackal came in, and then by that point, I think Tank was gone, and then that's when they started throwing in, Sniper and Recon and all those other guys. But
I thought Recon, Sniper, and the Interrogator, which was Kurgan, I thought those were the original three wrestlers in the group.
Yeah, I wish I could have my Truth Commission timeline a little bit better. I don't recall exactly. I know Kurgan was for sure, and I want to say Recon, and then I don't remember if Tank was one of the original guys.
Let's see all of the Tank. Maybe we could figure this out if we look at the Tank Truth Commission matches. So, and Tank, of course, is Mike Halac.
Yeah,
so
Mantaur.
He teamed with Recon and the Interrogator twice on Shotgun Saturday Night. That doesn't really help us at all.
What is that? June 97?
June 97.
That's got to be it.
Let's see if I could pull up all the Truth Commission matches and try to make sense of it that way.
I think June 97's got to be it because I remember them coming up in like September 97 when that was the Jackal, because I only remember watching like the Jackal version of the Truth Commission, only later finding out about the Commandant version of the Truth Commission. So I want to say that may have been the original.
All right, it was. Their very first match, the Truth Commission, was Recon, Tank, and Interrogator, probably managed by the Commandant.
Yeah.
One of the three jobbers they beat on that Shotgun Saturday Night was Terry Richards.
Oh,
which
Rhino.
Of course is.
Yeah, Rhino.
Yep. So that's interesting. Then they're fleshing out the act in Memphis, like you said. There's only one listed match. I'm sure there were more. Those records aren't complete. Then they had the second six-man, same lineup on the following week's Shotgun Saturday Night. One of the three jobber opponents in that match, Adam O'Brien, better known as Adam Pearce.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Right.
So they debut on Raw. It's Recon, Sniper, and the Interrogator. Here's where Rich, I had it backwards. Tank was an original. They got rid of him for Sniper, which is what you said. So that's what you said, right? So
yeah.
So Sniper. So you were right. Tank was original. Sniper came later. So there you go. By the time they got, and a lot of people might not even know of Tank because he never worked Raw. Because by the time they got to Raw, Tank was out, Sniper was in. And then from there on, it's all Recon, Sniper, with a dash of the interrogator.
A little interrogator thrown in, yeah. Interrogator by that point, he was doing a lot of
on.
singles matches at that point. So he would come out and
Yeah.
do his claw thing while the music go.
Yeah.
It fucking rocks, man. I loved the good shotgun Saturday night and Kurgan the Interrogator match, man. I loved it. Jackal with his red glasses. It's good stuff. Good shit, the Truth Commission.
Little Jackal, too. He got in there.
Yeah.
Alice got in there. Little Jackal. Yeah, the Survivor Series, where all four of them took on the Disciples of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
You know, the Crush and
Skull, Crush, Chains, and 8-Ball.
Yeah, the Harris brothers and who was the other guy?
Crush and then Brian Adams.
Brian Adams, that's right. Yeah. No, Brian Adams is Crush.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Brian Lee.
Brian Lee. So they even had a pay-per-view match, and they won it. They won a pay-per-view match at Survivor Series 97.
Yeah. Can't have Kurgan job. Can't have Kurgan job.
See, that Truth Commission pay-per-view victory was slightly overshadowed by the events of the main event of the
Survivor Series. Yeah, it is lost to history, unfortunately, because of the Montreal Screwjob. Yes, because otherwise we'd probably be talking about Kurgan the Interrogator. You know, giving the claw to Brian Lee to win it for I don't know who he beat. Who cares? But are you still looking at the Truth Commission cage match? Because I'll tell you, I saw a live Truth Commission match that Friday night's main event show at the Rosemont Horizon, the lovely Rosemont Horizon. Recon and Sniper defeating the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher. I was there.
Oh,
it was the
how about that
main event of that show. I will tell you that because
wow. Brutal.
Now they did. I think they were. I don't know how they were structuring this or why that was. They started with Vader and Bret Hart was like the opener.
Yeah.
Of this, but they taped it kind of out of order, but I definitely remember like the last match was that. And like whoever I was with, their mom wanted to leave. You know, it was like, we have to go. This is ridiculous. And it was this show was going on way late. She's like, we have to go. This is stupid. We must leave this. And we're like, no, we have to stay for the whole show. And then like, yeah, the Truth Commission comes out. I'm like, we can't leave. We can't leave during the Truth Commission. And then the Headbangers came out. We're like, we can't leave. And then, so we watched the 8-minute, Truth Commission versus Headbangers match. So when you're a kid, like more wrestling, you can't pass up wrestling. Are you kidding?
You got to watch the whole show. You got to watch.
You can't leave at the beginning. It's like you can't leave a baseball game. You don't know what's going to happen. I can't leave Truth Commission Headbangers. I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I bought this ticket. I'm staying for the whole show.
Right.
No doubt about it. So
it was a comp ticket.
Anyway,
nice seats. She worked. My buddy's mom worked for Stridex. Remember Stridex, the zit medicine that he used to sell on programming all the time. Yeah, we got some good comp seats from that guy.
Those Stridex pads, you'd wipe your face with that. It would sear your cheeks. It would just
burn the top layer of your skin off, and then no zits.
Yeah, it was.
You couldn't go out in the sun because you no longer had a top layer of skin, right. But that's all right.
Very effective because it would just burn off the top 2 layers of fucking skin, right. and the zits would come off with it. It was an awful product. They don't make those anymore.
I don't think so.
Skin burning pads. I mean, they were the shits. So anyway, he works Germany for a number of years, and that's WWE takes notice. I guess that PN News caught on a little quicker because he was 91 when he got to WCW, right? So he broke through in the United States before Bruiser Mastino did.
Yeah, way before.
Yeah, several years. So they brought him in. He did some dark matches, and then they gave him the Mantaur gimmick, which was like a living, I don't know, what do you want to call it? A bull?
He was a Minotaur. Yeah, he came out, and I watched the debut again, and Vince McMahon's like, what is that? It's like he comes out. It's like, you booked him, man. I don't know. You tell me. And it's like, the best part is he's like, who is that? What is that? And he comes out, and Jerry Lawler's like, he's a Minotaur. Vince, like, McMahon, he's a Minotaur. And then like a minute into the match, Vince McMahon goes, Mantaur adding his name to the Royal Rumble. I'm like, you didn't know who he was a minute ago, but apparently he's in the Royal Rumble. What are we doing here? What's going on? But it was ridiculous. So.
Wasn't he managed by Jim Cornette?
Yes, then at one point they put Cornette with him because they clearly wanted this thing to work. So when he originally came out, I don't think he was with Cornette. And then they put him with Cornette, and oh my God, you've never seen a guy try harder to get a guy over, and just, it's not going to happen, Cornette. It's just, the guy, And he was less goofy as time went on, like because he first came out, he had the bull head on, and it was just absolutely absurd. It was just so stupid.
Yeah, the bull head, and he would do the thing with his foot,
right?
Like,
go
digging it into the ground.
He'd snarl, and then he'd charge at guys or whatever. And then a little bit, then once Cornette got to him, they kind of just painted put face paint on him or whatever, and try to make him into like, no, he's not actually half bull, half man. He's just a strong man. But at that point, it was already over. And then he also wasn't great. He was big, but he wasn't a great worker. So it just did not work.
The thing about him is, he didn't start losing on TV until really late in the run, though. Like,
they wanted him to be a thing. Yeah, no, they definitely thought he was going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting beat on house shows, though. Like, if you look at his match record, Duke the Dumpster Droese was beating him in prelims like a drum, like basically every night. So he was losing on the house shows, but he was still getting pushed on TV, and he would only lose to the top guys. Like, he lost to Bret Hart, he lost to Bam Bam Bigelow, he lost to Razor Ramon, he lost in the King of the Ring qualifying to Bob Holly, but he was still winning squash matches on TV right up until the end. And a lot of times with guys like that, they start being on the other end of the squash matches, and they start being used as jobbers to the stars, and he never really did that, right up until the very end of the run. So you're right. I feel like Vince may have been holding out hope that he could do something with him, but it was just, even in real time, you just got the sense that it was never going to happen. And then he had the little run with ECW at the end of 1995, where he did work one ECW arena show against Hack Myers. And really, he was just brought in. This is when, during the period where they were bringing in guys who had been on WWF TV and for 911 to chokeslam. So he was one of those guys that they brought in for 911 to just, because I think there's footage of 911 chokeslamming him from one of the events or whatever. But he did work one ECW arena show, and I think he did work one of the big New York City shows too. And it just, he did maybe one run of shows, and Heyman never brought him back. So it looks like he did, now that I pull it up, he did two little swings. He did one swing in early December, and then Heyman brought him back at the end of December after Christmas, and he did a swing to Glen Olden, Pennsylvania show, which was a regular stop for them. That was the 911 match I'm talking about. They definitely filmed that, because I have a memory burned in my head of 911 chokeslamming him. And then he did the Lost Battalion Hall in New York the next night, and he won. He won a squash against El Puerto Riqueño, but they never brought him back. After that, he went back to Germany for a while, and Cannonball Grizzly was back too, because that was years after WCW gave up on PN News.
Yeah, way past. So, I think PN was done by 92, 93 for sure.
Yeah, and other than that, the crew had turned over a little. Ulf Herman, Ice Train, or some of the names.
Yeah, a lot of Ice Train. Now Ulf Herman is a guy. He had, later on he went to ECW. Remember, he was Herman the German, and he was part of the FBI from hailing from where did they bill him from? From Berlin, Italy, or something like that. I think it was Berlin, Italy, or something like that. Yeah, I want to say Berlin, Italy, or I think that was it.
Yeah, as one of the ridiculous members of the full-blooded Italians. But yeah, so he went back and worked, Tony St. Clair, people like that, back in Germany. And then that really was the end of his major league career. From there.
Did a shot as Goldust bodyguard for, I forget when that exactly was, maybe 96 or 97, or like a couple
somewhere
of shows. A couple of show shot as again, they kept trying to give this guy shots. Like, they kept kind of thinking there was something there, but yeah, it never worked out in WWE.
Never worked out. And then, he settled back near his hometown in Omaha, Nebraska. And we've joked about it before on this show, because he's come up at times. He's a legitimate member of the Omaha Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and he was a guy on who was prominent on the Nebraska, Iowa indie circuit for a number of those years. And I do have one amusing Mantaur story that I can tell from WrestleMania weekend in New York. I may have told this story before. I'm going to tell it again. So we're in the WrestleCon hotel, and I'm pretty sure this was New York. And Mantaur walks by, and there's a kid with a backpack. And I say kid, he was probably, late teens, early 20s.
I was here for this, by the way. So,
and he goes, "You were there? It was you?"
Oh yeah.
I thought
I
it was
there,
maybe
yeah.
Okay. So the kid's like, Mantaur, and he stops. And he goes in his backpack, and this is an autograph collector. So he's flipping through his 8x10.
Yeah, he knows he's got a Mantaur 8x10 somewhere. He's just got to find it.
Yeah. So he gets to it, and the kid was like, "Well, how much?" Because he knows he's not going to get it for free. Because Mantaur's obviously at WrestleCon selling these things, but he wants to cut him a deal in the hallway. And I don't remember the exact dollar figures, but the point of the story will come through. So Mantaur's like, $20. And the kid's like, I don't know. He starts packing up.
He puts the 8x10 back in the backpack, starts slowly zipping it up.
And see, I already ruined the story. First, the kid was like, I'll give you $20. And then Mantaur was like, no, I want 40. That's what it was.
Yes.
So Mantaur's like, no, I'm only doing it for 40. And then the kid started packing up his stuff. He's like, I don't know. It's a little too rich for my blood. So he's putting his shit away. And I don't think the kid was like negotiating or doing a gimmick.
No, the kid was ready to leave. He was just like, all right, that's too much. I'll leave then.
Yeah. He legitimately thought that was too much.
I'll let you go on with your day, sir. Thank you for the moment. Take care. Have a great one.
Yeah. It wasn't a negotiation tactic. So then Mantaur's like, all right, I'll do it for 35. And the kid's like, nah, he's still packing up his stuff. He's like, all right, how about 30? And the kid's like, nah. He's like, all right, I'll do it for the 20. And the kid's like, nah, you know what? I'm not, I'm
I already put it away. I don't want to bother you. Then this kid felt bad. He was like, no, I remember this. The kid was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I don't want to bother you. Like, have a good day. Take care. See you later. Like, he was ashamed. Like, he was wasting his time here.
Yeah. So he's like, sure, I'll do it for the 20. And now Mantaur is following the kid down the hallway.
Yeah.
And then he's finally like, I'll do it for 15. I'll do it for 10. And then the final resolution was the kid finally agreed to the $10, which was $10 less than the kid offered to begin with and $30 less than Mantaur countered with. So he ended up accepting the $10, and the kid got his autograph for $10.
His Mantaur autograph.
And that is my Mantaur story. And
it was you, me, and Rob Stryker watching this all happen in real time and just blown away by the transaction that occurred.
Yeah. The guy cost himself $10 by trying to be a savvy negotiator, and the sheer desperation, and then finally doing the autograph for $10. But I don't know. You got anything else on Mike Halac?
I don't. I did send a DM to our friend Hype Gotti, a fellow Nebraska wrestling legend, and said we should have had you on the show this week, but let's try to link up sometime in the next week to talk about Mantaur. And he says, I was hoping somebody would ask, so we'll try to because that man's got Mantaur stories, baby. Let me tell you,
he will have Mantaur stories that make that last story we told sound like nothing you've ever heard. He's got incredible Mantaur stories.
Yeah, so we'll try to link up with Hype Gotti at some point in the next week or so to do more Mantaur stories. So.
Yes.
Because there's nobody on the earth is more prepared for Mantaur stories than Hype Gotti, so I cannot wait.
I cannot even oversell these. These are just
no, they are great, and I only know a few of them. I'm sure he's got even more. So I'll just tell you, Hype Gotti on his Twitter account put here. There's one that I think we'll want to talk about for sure. And then another one, he says, Mantaur was unintentionally part of probably 2 of the 3 funniest stories in my entire life. I always laugh at the thought of him, yada, yada. I won't. That one we'll talk about later. The other one is fighting con artiste in the parking lot of a sand volleyball court on a railroad track with a nightstick.
Yes. And the other story, which was crashing his first date. With
I
the
always laugh at the thought of him crashing a first date I was on and fighting con artiste in the parking lot of a sand volleyball court on a railroad track with a nightstick.
Just imagine being on a first date with a lady you're trying to impress, and Mantaur crashes the date and sits down at your dinner table with you and the young lady. It's a real thing that happens to that man. Yep. So and he's got more of them, believe me. But anyway, that was Mike Halac, aka Mantaur. Rest in peace, dead at 55. Rich, I believe you have a special offer for the listeners.
I do. So let's talk about it here. It is from our friends at BetStamp, who are helping sponsor this week's show. Sports betting, of course, has rapidly risen in popularity, and we want to connect you all with an opportunity to get started and get ahead. Most importantly, get ahead. Having multiple sportsbooks accounts is the most simple way to maximize your profits, and there has never been a better time to sign up. When you visit our page, betstamp.app/VOW, that's BETSTAMP.app/VOW, you'll be connected to all of the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform, as well as its unique benefits. All of these sportsbooks have many, many valuable sign-up offers for new users, discounts, promo codes, all those sort of things. And when you register through our link, betstamp.app/VOW, you will automatically receive the top offer at each of those sportsbooks. So when you use multiple sportsbooks as well, we talked about this, you ensure that you always get access to the best available odds, which is the key to successful sports betting. You don't need to be beholden to any one sportsbook. You want the best odds. You are going to bet on whatever you're going to bet on. Get the best odds for it. Make the most money. That's what you can do by signing up to multiple sportsbooks and seeing all the different odds, and BetStamp allows you to do that. So, of course, if you want to take advantage of these benefits and support the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network as well as the Flagship Podcast, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook at betstamp.app/VOW. Again, it's BETSTAMP.app/VOW, betstamp.app/VOW. And we, of course, thank them for sponsoring this week's show. All right. Let's get into the world of AEW, Joe. There was a news report here from Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select that WBD sources confirmed they proposed, quote, significantly expanding AEW's pay-per-view schedule with the, quote, very likely possibility that AEW will expand to 12 pay-per-views a year, or basically one per month. What was also discussed in that as well was, what would be the outlet for this? Would it be HBO Max? Would it be on pay-per-view? All that sort of stuff. None of that was exactly confirmed or really, I don't know that was strongly hinted one way or another. We can strongly hint that if we want right here, but all that was sort of reported by the Fightful Select report was that, WBD sources confirmed they proposed to AEW significantly expanding their pay-per-view schedule and the very likely possibility that they could expand to 12 per year or at least one per month. So, Joe, what do you make of that initial news before we break down some of the pros, the cons, and, what this might mean for AEW business?
Well, I mean, I heard about this on either Monday or Tuesday night. I can't remember which. And I was in the process of asking around, and then Sean put his story out. I don't have anything to add. I just wanted to let people know that I heard about this too. I was I'm peacocking, Rich, is what I'm doing. My read on this is that if Warner Brothers Discovery are the ones asking for this, then obviously they want a taste, and these are more than likely going to be pay-per-view events that would air on their service or their services they're going to be involved in some way. I don't think that these would just be like the 5 pay-per-views we have currently. Call your local cable system in order. I feel like Warner Brothers Discovery, and we talked about at the top, asking for more content, and they see this as a hot property that they have here. And this is another content ask out of them. And I would think that these additional shows would air somewhere other than just traditional pay-per-view. And I also think this probably has something to do with why we haven't heard anything about All In yet and how that's going to be distributed.
Right. And I've seen people reference that if you look at the poster, it doesn't say anything about pay-per-view. It doesn't say live on pay-per-view. All Out, I believe. The posters for that don't. And again, I don't know if all the other pay-per-view posters that were released, months prior had that either. But it was something that was, with all the, like you're saying, the fact that All In is happening in, a month and we still have no idea where it's going to be and if it's going to be on pay-per-view. The fact that they haven't squashed that, speculation leads you to believe that there's probably some smoke to that fire.
Yeah, I mean, well, Tony Khan did say during one of his press deals, I forget which one, he assured everybody, he's like, look, there's going to be a way for everybody to watch the show. I just can't get into it yet. So you have to think that that's somehow tied into this. So, you do have Max right there, and and this is with the merger and the new rebranding of HBO Max to Max, and we all know how these streamers operate. They're always looking for content to draw people in. The dots are there to connect. And by adding Collision, and they're obviously going to get coaxed into this, and AEW is going to want to be compensated for providing this content. So, and we tried to tell people years ago, AEW eventually is going to be playing the same content game that WWE plays, because that's how these wrestling promotions on a big time level make their money now. So when USA Network wants a third hour of Raw, and it means getting X amount of percentage higher, rates on on the television deal, you give them a fucking third hour of Raw. When Warner Brothers Discovery asks for a 2-hour show on Saturday nights, and when they ask you to run pay-per-view events exclusive to their streaming service, or however these things are going to work, and they're backing up a truckload of money for you to do so, you do it. And, there's pluses, there's positives and negatives to running the monthly big shows. I think some people will welcome it, as it might tighten up the booking a bit and give it more focus. And you won't see stories stretched out over the course of 3-4 months, which is kind of a booking weakness in AEW at times, where they don't know how to fill the time with some of these stories. And the flip side of that is you're rushing through things, because each month is a new pay-per-view cycle. And you can't necessarily allow certain stories to breathe, because you've got to fill all of these major shows every 4 weeks. And that can, as we've seen with WWE, sometimes be a major negative. So it'll be interesting to see. And look, if this is being discussed and negotiated, I think it's going to happen. So we could just work off the premise that we're going to be moving to 12 pay-per-views a year, or 12 major shows a year, whatever you want to call them, with this company, and then let the discussion begin as far as what that means for the week-to-week shows, and what that's going to mean for the booking and all of those things. It's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be adjustment for Tony Khan and the people right now that he has in his creative who are putting the shows together. And, I will reserve judgment until I see how they handle these things. Maybe Tony has kind of been hesitant to do lots of rematches in his company, but when you have to do pay-per-views every 4 weeks, maybe we start seeing more major stars trading wins over the course of 3 pay-per-views with, one guy, and then you do a blow off on the third one, or you do a tag to set up a singles match in the next pay-per-view, and those sorts of things, which haven't really been part of Tony Khan's booking rhythms in the first 4 years. He has done rematches, but not nearly at the level that WWE will. WWE does tons of rematches, always has. But maybe this is something that will change that mindset, and that he has regarding, doing matches over and over again. So it's things like that you have to consider. Will it mean more title changes? More frequent title changes?
I wrote that down as probably the biggest thing, is that they've been able to very, 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 very much limit big time title changes, especially with the world title. Obviously, there's only been a couple people that have had the world title, and they've had pretty significant reigns, other than the CM Punk, injury issue going to Moxley. That's about the only time that it really got bounced around. Otherwise, it's been guys with very, very significant, very long runs. And we're seeing that with a guy like Orange Cassidy. We're seeing it at a lot of titles in that company are won and held for a very long amount of time. That might change now. If you're doing a weekly or a monthly pay-per-view, I should say, that might make you want to do that a little bit more, instead of saying, oh, you know what, because it's going to be do you really want like the world champion to win at 9 straight pay-per-views or whatever? Because that's not out of, that wouldn't be out of character for an AEW world champion to win at 2 straight pay-per-views or whatever. And that's, if they're doing them quarterly or whatever, okay, that's not bad. That's not insane. But the fact that now that will be stretched out over to 5, 6, 7, 8 pay-per-views. It's a lot of pay-per-views now that this guy is walking out on top, winning in your main event and holding the title. That does change a lot. So I do think that if this does come to fruition, which it most likely will, I do think you probably see more title changes, because there just will be that natural inclination to do that, and not just have the same guy win to end every single month. It's the same time period, but just the optics of ending every single pay-per-view with, insert, world champion, whoever that may be, winning the title and holding the title above his head every single time might get a little old to people if it's done, 6, 7, 8, 9 times in a row.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, everything you just said. I mean, it totally changes the dynamic of everything. And
another thing that changes too, not to interrupt there, the TV specials. Now they have been able to kind of fill that gap out of, and we talked about it from day one with AEW, is that yes, they don't have, pay-per-views every single month or 8 a year or whatever. They're doing their 4 or 5 a year or whatever. But what they're able to do is sometimes in between that, when it feels right, give you a big time title match, give you a Hangman versus Danielson on TV for free, call it something, Winter is Coming or brand it as something special, but give you essentially a pay-per-view level match. Not always a pay-per-view level show. Sometimes they are very, very good shows, but at the very least, a pay-per-view level match, a big time match between two main eventers to pop a week or to, find a pretty strategic week to put that in. You're gonna kind of lose that, which might in turn not pop as many of your, TV ratings. But again, it's the same company, and that's where if it's WBD, you trade that in. If it's Warner saying, "Look, yeah, we're going to sacrifice, 5 or 6 different television shows that do really good ratings because now you're going to put all your stuff on Max, and we're going to, get X amount of new subscribers, or we're going to do the ESPN Plus UFC model where, yeah, you subscribe to Max, but if you pay, $8 extra or $10 extra, whatever, you get an AEW pay-per-view," which I would be interested to see if they do that versus the original Peacock model or the WWE Network model of, okay, pay us X, then you're just going to get all these things for free. I would guess that they're probably trying to figure out a model where you pay a little bit, because UFC and ESPN Plus figured out the model. Everybody laughed at it when it happened. People saying, "Oh my God, we're just going to subscribe to ESPN Plus and then pay to watch these UFC shows." Forget it. And then people did it, and they made a shit ton of money doing it. And that became the new model. And then WWE looked like idiots because their model was, "Oh shit, well, you're just going to get everything for free with us. Sorry, whoops." And UFC just basically showed them, no, you make people pay for this shit. Like, these are still important shows. Make people pay for it. So I would assume that they would look at that and say, okay, that's probably a better model for us than simply just giving these away for free. But the ball's in Warner Brothers' court. If they're like, "Hey, look, we need subscribers. We want this Max thing to happen. Here's a boatload of money. Give us, one major show every single month." You're AEW, of course. You're going to say, "Sure, we'll do it." Why wouldn't you?
I could be wrong about this. I feel like they've scaled back on the named television shows.
It does feel like they've done less.
I feel like they don't do them as often as they used to, because that was a frequent tactic they would use to pop a number, where, like you said, they would do a Winter is Coming or, whatever, and then kind of load it up. But at the same time, those weren't pay-per-view quality lineups.
No, there was a pay-per-view quality match. There was a pay-per-view quality match usually, but not ever the whole show. The rest of the show was just a normal Dynamite.
It was a better show than a typical Dynamite, but they were beneath the pay-per-view standard when they do those. In fact, have they done one since Winter is Coming? I don't think they have. I mean, they did Championship Fight Night, which I'm seeing. New Year, no, they did Winter's. Okay, this year, 2023. Okay, the end of 2022, they did it twice. They did Holiday Bash. They did New Year's Smash. They did Winter is Coming. They did 3 last December. Winter is Coming, Holiday Bash, and New Year's Smash. Before that, they did a Thanksgiving themed show in November. They definitely did them more frequent. They did Title Tuesday in October. They basically averaged more than one a month because they did 3 in December. If you look at 2023, okay, they did Championship Fight Night in February, and that's it. They've really cut back. I guess I should compare February to February, but the back end of 2022, they were doing these like at least once a month, sometimes more. This year, they've only done 1. They've done some named rampages. So, maybe they've moved that strategy to Rampage. Just looking further on 2022, anniversary show in October, Grand Slam in September. Before that, Quake by the Lake in August. Before that, Fight for the Fallen in July. Fighter Fest in July. Fighter Fest Night 1 and Night 2 in July. In fact, they did 2 Fighter Fest. Blood and Guts in June. Road Rager in June. So yeah, they've certainly cut back at least early this year. Wild Card Wednesday, like forget about some of these. But at the same time, when I go back to February and March, well, they didn't do too many early in the year. They did St. Patrick's Day Slam in March. They did Slam Dunk in February. They did Beach Break in January. Okay, so it's true. They are undoubtedly doing less of those this year. They were doing them one a month in the winter. They were pounding them in the summer, one a month in the fall, and then pounding them again in the winter last year.
Okay, that makes sense. That's how I remember it a little bit. So I'm glad we actually figured that out.
This year we've had one all year. And then we're going to have Blood and Guts next week. So, and they've done them for Rampage, oddly enough. Championship Friday, the St. Patrick's Day Slam was a Rampage and not a Dynamite. So they have undoubtedly scaled back on the named television shows. So could that also be part of the plan to just sort of take some of that IP and turn those into whatever these specials are going to be? Someone in the chat suggested that there's a prevailing idea that the Peacock deal has been what's helped WWE grow. I've heard that theory too. I just don't agree with it. I don't think Peacock is the primary driver of WWE growing. I think the Bloodline angle being hot is the primary driver of WWE growing. And I think that has very little to do with Peacock. I do not buy the idea that random people who have Peacock are going over to the WWE tab out of curiosity, throwing on a pay-per-view and being just hypnotized by this amazing I think people still laugh at WWE, people who aren't fans. And I don't think Peacock is helping them grow. I really don't. I not in significant numbers.
No, it probably, if anything, it helps them. If there's enough buzz around something being good, it probably helps the fact that people can watch it more easily. And instead of hey, there's a really good thing going on. Oh, you got to pay $60 to watch it. Forget it. I don't care. But it needs that initial buzz, like you said. It needs that initial, you got to start the fire somehow. And I think that's what you're saying. This stuff, I think Peacock's made the delivery of it a little bit easier, but I don't know that it's necessarily been the reason why. Those are people
that are already wrestling fans.
Right.
Like, I don't think Peacock is turning non-fans.
You don't think your like King of Queens fan is like, aha, you know what I'm going to do tonight? I'm going to watch WWE Great Balls of Fire. Let's see what this is.
And I think if they do, they're not sticking with it. They think it's trash. Because if you're a non-fan, it's really bad. I mean, it's a world you can't possibly understand.
Right. I also saw someone in the chat room because I said that WWE looked like idiots for the network model, and someone said WWE looks like idiots by getting $200 million a year and tons of exposure on Peacock. No, the WWE network model, they look like idiots because they said $9.99 is the price and you get everything for free, and that was dumb because they destroyed their pay-per-view business instantly, right. And nobody subscribed to the network, and not enough people subscribed to the network. So what they did is, because it was so very clearly a disaster, all the people that were in charge of the WWE network got fired, and they took a giant bag of money from NBC and Peacock. So no,
right, to get their money back.
Yes,
they lost on pay-per-view all those years.
Yes, whereas UFC and WWE and ESPN Plus at the very same time was saying, yeah, we're going to put our stuff on ESPN Plus, but no, we're not giving it for free. You're not just going to subscribe to ESPN Plus and get all of our premium shows. No, you're going to subscribe for X amount of money, but then you're going to pay us also an additional amount of money, and we're going to do that. And they made money hand over fist, and clearly showed that the model that WWE had chosen of flat rate, get everything for free, was not a good idea. And instead, the model was the other way. Whereas on Peacock now, yeah, that's still the model, but that they got out of that business. That's NBC's problem now. They got a giant bag of money from NBC and said, we'll produce the shows. It's up to you guys to figure out the rest. The end.
Right. Peacock was a cash in. It was a cash out, rather.
Cash
out, get out of the streaming business. They, Nick Khan has publicly said that. He said, I looked at this when I came in and I said, why are we running a streaming service and trying to crawl uphill in the fucking snow and ice? Just sell this shit to somebody and let them worry about it, because this didn't work. WWE Network was a failure. I don't know who needs to hear that, but that did not work out. That was a net negative.
Also, Peacock, not exactly making money hand over fist either. So I don't know if that model is exactly the way to go either. I'll just say that, for WWE's standpoint, it's fine because they got a boatload of money.
Yeah.
And like you said, the whether it be the exposure or just the ease of access for people to watch, but yeah, for actual NBC Universal's ledger and stuff, every streaming service seems to be a massive unmitigated failure. So cool. Cool thing we started here.
It's a mess. It's a mess, but they're all looking for content, and they're going to be looking for content for Max.
Yep.
and this is what's going to be. And I think you're going to need more big matches now because, you can't cannibalize your TV rate like you talked about. You can go in a room and tell WBD, hey, look, we can give you these 12 pay-per-views and put our big matches on them, but this is going to cannibalize our TV. And they can answer back to you, hey, that's not our problem. You still have to deliver ratings too. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, well, tough shit. Suck.
That's we're giving you a fucking X amount. We're giving you $1 billion. You need to figure out how to make these shows that we want you to do desirable and continue giving us our ratings. So it doesn't work like that where you can go in a room and say, all right, well, we're going to move all our big matches to these shows. It's going to hurt our TV. They don't want to hear that. They just want results. So now it's the kind of deal where adding these shows, you might have to figure out a way to create more big matches because as we said, these named shows, they weren't pay-per-view quality up and down the card. It was one big main event, like you said earlier, and maybe one or two other decent supporting matches. But for a pay-per-view quality card, you need 8 matches. You need 8 quality matches, and 6 of them need to be big-time matches. They don't all need to be big-time matches.
Right, which I think is a big change. I mean, it was really easy to say, hey, winter is coming, we're going to get, Danielson and Hangman or whatever. Rest of the show, yeah, there might be some good stuff on the rest of the show, but the thing we're going to put on the poster, or Blood and Guts this upcoming week. Well, we'll talk. Yeah. There's Blood and Guts. Like, that's the big match. I mean, there's the, obviously the Adam Cole MJF thing and the Blind Eliminator Tag Tournament or whatever. That's happening too, but that's 2 matches. So you have 2 matches essentially booked for Blood and Guts this week, but the whole... It's the Blood and Guts is what it is, but that's not a pay-per-view. That's 2 matches. You can't have a pay-per-view that's got 1 big match, 1 semi-big match, and then say whatever with the rest of the show, like you can do with the Dynamite. So that it does change the game a little bit. If you're gonna, especially if you want people to pay additional money, let's assume that is the case. If you want people to pay whether it be $10 to $30 or whatever additional, you got to deliver a full pay-per-view card every single month, and that is a challenge. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not a challenge, it's different. They just haven't done that yet. It's just something new, whether it's not a challenge or not. I don't think it's that easy to do, but it will be an interesting, like you said, it changes how they've operated over their 4 years. It completely changes the booking patterns, the beats, all that sort of stuff, because you got to be ready to give a pay-per-view quality, a paid show quality every single month, and that's different.
Here's the last one they did for Dynamite, Championship Fight Night. Here's what was on the card. You tell me if you think this is a pay-per-view quality card or just a really strong TV card, okay? The Guns versus the Acclaimed was your television main event, but not, well, I guess maybe I don't know. Let me tell you the rest of the card. The Elite versus AR Fox and Top Flight for the trios titles. Bryan Danielson versus Roosh. The Ricky Starks runs the Jericho Appreciation Society Gauntlet. Jamie Hayter versus The Bunny, and MJF versus Takeshita.
Yeah, no, that's a good television show.
It's a nice TV show. You put that on pay-per-view, that's a bold move. That's not a pay-per-view quality card. And, I know some of them have been a little stronger than that. Like there's been, Winter is Coming with Hangman and Danielson, right? And things like that. But that's just to give you an idea of what some of these named shows look like. You can't throw that on pay-per-view. Here you go. Here's another one. New Year's Smash. Bryan Danielson versus Ethan Page. Castagnoli and Moxley versus Top Flight. Hook and a Squash. The Elite and Death Triangle in the best of 7. TJAS versus Ruby Soho and Willow. And Samoa Joe versus the Wardlock.
I don't even know if that's a good television show, to be honest.
Again, that's not even a special TV show. Yeah. It's like this idea that you can just take these named television events and slap them on pay-per-view. No, not with the quality look, you got to increase the quality of these shows. So it's like we're saying, now there's legitimate pressure to create more money matches, which should be obvious when you're adding pay-per-views. But it's just not a matter of converting these named television shows.
No. It'll be a little different than that. And like you said, too, what they could, you've been pretty critical of that for a while, that Tony's sat on a lot of big-time matchups and kind of kick the can down the road to kind of say, no, we'll wait. Well, now it might not be worth it to wait. There's really no reason to wait. Like, go, book that match. If you got the match, book it, do rematches, get a little bit higher level. I mean, it will completely transform this company in all ways. I mean, it absolutely will. And anybody who doesn't think it will, then that's not, if it doesn't transform the company, then they're going to, it's not going to go well. I'll say, it has to transform the company. It has to transform what they book, how they book, the beats of how they book, the speed with what they book with. It changes everything. It's a complete game changer for the company, and ideally comes with a giant bag of money as well, and that changes the company as well. But no, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated. If and when it does happen, how the booking patterns do change and sort of how they operate. With so much extra television as well. And I think that's one of the crazy things about AEW right now is just like, man, Warner Brothers can't stop giving them television, but you're talking about 12 pay-per-views a year, a 2-hour Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, Battle of the Belts specials, if you're still going to do those. I mean, tangentially Ring of Honor, which, I think the report also brought up Ring of Honor, and WBD wants nothing to do with Ring of Honor. Every time that it's brought up, it's like, no, we're good. Thank you, though. They keep trying. Say, hey, we got this Ring of Honor thing. If you got it, no, we're good. Okay, all right. If you do, we got it. No, we're good. We're good.
We'll do one more just for the exercise. Winter is coming. Last winter is coming. MJF versus Ricky Starks.
That was good. That was a good match.
Death Triangle versus Elite in part of the best of 7. We're about to go off a cliff here, Rich.
I remember this.
Jack Perry versus Brian Cage.
Yeah.
In singles action. House of Black versus The Factory. That was a 26-second match, by the way. Chris Jericho versus Action Andretti. This was the big upset, so it was Andretti wasn't anything yet. So it was just Chris Jericho versus Jobber. And Ruby Soho versus Ty Mello. That was your Winter is Coming. Rich, I've now convinced myself that these named TV shows are like worse than the regular TV shows.
They always have the one good match, though. No, they're good.
These are brutal.
No, they're usually pretty good. We do instant reaction lives for almost all of them, and they're always really good shows. They're really fun. Yes.
When did we ever do an instant reaction live for one of these?
Are you kidding? We definitely did one for Winter is Coming. I'm positive of it.
We did?
Yes.
Maybe you're right.
No, I'm not maybe. No, I'm absolutely right.
For this one that I just read?
Yes. What was the main event of that one?
MJF versus Ricky Starks.
No, maybe we didn't do that one.
I don't think we did it. I think I did a regular Dynamite review for this with Andretti and Chris Jericho. In fact, I know I did.
Okay, maybe we didn't do that one. We did the Winter is Coming for... No, hold on. How many Winters is Coming do they have?
Well, this was the last. I just went in order and read you the last.
I see. Okay, we did the one in 2021. Sorry, we did the one in 2021.
It's probably Danielson Hangman.
Yeah, that was Danielson Hangman. Okay, got it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you try to make these shows pay-per-views, you're going to take a beating.
Yeah, not going to go great.
That'd be the real test to see if 120 really is the floor.
Oh yeah. Those would certainly test it. But there you go. So
you could do. Here's the thing: you could do Blood and Guts or Grand Slam as pay-per-views.
Yes.
But again, you have to load up the undercards because it's a pay-per-view. That's the thing. Like Blood and Guts sells a TV show by itself.
Right. Blood and Guts you might be able to play with a little bit because you can just have that match go an hour and then you only need a couple more matches on the undercard to really fill that out. That's a little bit of a cheat code. Blood and Guts will be easy to move.
Yeah. And at least in my memory, the Grand Slam lineups are close to pay-per-view caliber. You know what? Let's pull one up.
Pull one up, yeah.
Because I feel like
let's do Danielson Omega. Go to that one. Go Danielson Omega.
Was that 2022?
2021. That was 2021.
All right. All right, here we go. September. There we go. Okay. 2021 Grand Slam. Danielson Omega. That's a pay-per-view main event in any building in the country.
Of course.
MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes. That's a pay-per-view match.
Yeah, for sure.
Darby Allin and Sting versus FTR. That's a pay-per-view match. And for the women's title, remember the quote-unquote main event, Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho. That's a main event. That's a pay-per-view match.
That's okay. That's pay-per-view.
So
they can move that one over.
4 out of 5 were legitimate pay-per-view matches, and then MJF, Brian Pillman was whatever. So yes, that is the kind of show where you add a little bit of beef to it. That's a pay-per-view show. And remember, Grand Slam is part 1, part 2. So Rampage had the rest of the stuff. CM Punk, Powerhouse Hobbs, Kingston and Moxley versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. You could put together a pay-per-view with this stuff, with what I just named and what was on Rampage. Super Click versus Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express. So you're right. That one's a pay-per-view, no doubt about it. And you cut all this fat.
Right.
The rest of the stuff that I'm not naming, Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. Men of the Year versus Inner Circle, was Jericho and Hagar versus Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. But anyway, between the Dynamite and the Rampage, you've got 7 or 8 pay-per-view quality matches there for Grand Slam. So maybe it's just the more recent ones that have just been run-of-the-mill TV. But
yeah, we'll see.
Anyway.
We'll see what ends up happening with that. As far as next week's Dynamite, obviously Blood and Guts, we do now have the official announcement of the full lineup for the Blood and Guts match. It's going to be Jon Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler, Konosuke Takeshita, and the returning Pac. Pac made his return on Dynamite, and that team will be facing the Golden Elites, Kenny Omega, Heyman Page, the Young Bucks, and as speculated by many, 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 many people, the debuting Kota Ibushi is here in AEW. Blood and Guts next week. Golden Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club and Pac. Takeshita and Pac, I should say.
People heard my thoughts on the review. What do you think of those two guys?
I like the Pac. I like the Pac inclusion. I guess I don't love that Death Triangle is done because I guess it's not done. I guess we shouldn't say that it's done. I don't know that it's done.
We know that for sure.
We don't know it's
That's
done.
the thing.
Yeah, he could just be. Yeah. In this particular case, he's going after Kenny Omega. He doesn't mean that he's done with Death Triangle. Doesn't mean Death Triangle's over. He's just going after Kenny Omega, and these are the.
And he obviously has beef with the Bucks with the Death Triangle.
Right.
So there's a connection there.
So there's connection there. He's just a guy that they have common enemies at this time. So yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that the Death Triangle's over. I love Pac. I wish Pac was around more. I hate when Pac's gone for like 6 months at a time, and I forget that Pac's there, and then Pac comes back, and I'm like, oh yeah, Pac's great, and then he goes away. He does some cool stuff for a month or two, and then he goes away for a little bit. It's very strange the way they use Pac. It's very, very odd. The way that he's used and utilized there, but anytime he's there, I love him. I mean, he's great. He looks like $1 million. He's a bastard. He's got the hammer, so I'm all in on it. I think he's going to add to that match as well. And Kota Ibushi, I mean, it's Kota Ibushi. How could you not be excited about Kota Ibushi in AEW in a Blood and Guts match? Reunited with Kenny Omega, reunited with the Young Bucks. There with the Golden Elite. That sounds like an awesome match. I mean, I'd be it's War Game style. I don't always love War Games, but I think Blood and Guts have been one of the best versions of War Games that anyone's done in recent history. So no, I'm excited about it. I think Pac's great. I think Kota Ibushi he's fucking Kota Ibushi. So I think he'll fit in great. And yeah, it sounds like a hell of a match. And this has unquestionably been the best feud in AEW. I mean, just blowing away the MJF Adam Cole stuff. So to me. I'm excited, and I don't know if it's the end of it, probably, and interested to see what they do next with all these guys, but I think this is going to be a hell of a match. It's an absolute war, an absolute bloodbath. So, yeah, I can't wait.
All right, before we switch topics, can I take the world's worst victory lap?
You can. I do want to let people know, though, before you do that.
Oh, yeah. Get that in. That's important.
Next week, Blood and Guts. As we do with a lot of these specials, Joe. Several.
I blew up your spot.
Several of these specials. We'll be doing Instant Reaction Live immediately following the show next Wednesday. Blood and Guts. Subscribe now to our $10 tier, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/patreon. Instant Reaction Live for next week's AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts. We got Blackpool Combat Club, Takeshita and Pac versus the Golden Elite, Blood and Guts, as well as Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara versus Adam Cole and MJF in the finals of the Blind Eliminator Tag Team Tournament. Instant Reaction Live next week, immediately following AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts. That means no Thursday Dynamite review because you're already going to be reviewing it there. So we do lose that, but get on the $10 tier as soon as you can. Flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voice of wrestling, and you will be able to listen to that live immediately following Dynamite.
Yeah, and I'm not going to review it twice. So you want to hear Dynamite review next week, You can hear it live right after the show and get on $10 tier for that. So I'm going to take the world's dumbest and weakest victory lap. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So Brian Pillman Jr. appears to be done with AEW. And he's off the roster page. And we know how AEW does things. They don't announce when people the contracts quietly run their course, and then people are just gone, right? The only time you really hear about it being official is if the wrestler themselves puts it out there. The company never releases information that someone is finished with the company. The contract runs out and they're gone. So Brian Pillman Jr. is off the roster page. I remember in the early days of AEW, the early days of Dynamite, this was a real debate as far as which of the varsity blondes was going to be earmarked for stardom. Was it going to be Brian Pillman Jr.? Was it going to be Griff Garrison? And I was adamant on those weekly. I told you this was going to be a terrible victory lap.
This is the worst victory lap. Who cares?
Adamant on those television reviews. You know, I never bypass the opportunity to
This is your lowest. Right. I can't believe you're going to do this, but go ahead.
I was adamant on those television reviews that if I was forced to choose, it's Griff Garrison that would be the star of this group, not Brian Pillman Jr., who to me was a total nothing. I always saw him as a total nothing. He never got any better in the ring. He wasn't coachable. You never heard good things, whispers when you talk to people in the company. He didn't really have any charisma, and he was 100% a product of just being his father's son. And here we are, Brian Pillman Jr. no longer with the company. But you know who is still with the company, Rich?
Griff
you know
Garrison.
Who's still with the company?
Griff Garrison.
Good height. He's nice and tall.
This is the worst victory that you've ever done.
He's nice and tall. He's got that height that you look for.
Oh, yeah.
In the star wrestler. And he's tall.
He's got the height. He does have the height you look for in a star wrestler. I would.
He has the height. He's long.
Yeah.
He's got the length. He's tall. He definitely has some height to him.
What's the last All Elite Wrestling match that Griff Garrison's been on?
That man's injured.
Oh, okay.
You can't besmirch him.
Is he? He just wrestled. He just wrestled earlier this month.
Well, listen, don't worry about that. That's besides the point. Here is he is still employed, and I have to take the victory lap here. I was right about the superior varsity blonde. It was Griff Garrison all along. So, whoever I'm sticking it to there, whoever used to argue with me about that,
you're all wrong.
I want to let you know that I came out ahead as always. So.
As Jordan Smith puts in the Dodo chat room, a victory lap in a golf cart is what you just did there. So good. I told you Griff Garrison was the best, better of the.
I told you Griff Garrison would outlast Brian Pillman Jr. And God damn it, he did.
I think Julia Hart made out better than anybody in that crew, but.
Well, that's without question.
But sure, there's still time. The Griff Garrison story has not been told yet. The book has closed on Brian Pillman. We can close the book on Brian Pillman, but the Griff Garrison book is still open. Who knows what chapters will be written in the coming weeks and months and years.
Yeah, Griff's got that height that you look for.
Okay.
In a future wrestling, he's got the good height. So I think what's Griff? He's got to be a solid 6'3", right?
I think he's about 6'2", 6'3", yeah.
Tall, he's long, he's got the height.
Yeah.
A lot of things to like about him. starting with his height. So anyway, that's lest people thought I would forget. Okay, those hotly contested 2019/2020 debates in the comments of the Thursday TV
the old
reviews.
days, the good old days, man. People don't realize there's a lot of new people that have gotten into AEW, new people listening to the show, man. Those halcyon days of early AEW, man, that was your big debate when the show was over. Was like, I don't know, man. Not sure about these Hollywood blondes. It's like,
Yeah, I considered putting together an audio package like we did for Kenny Omega when he won the G1.
Oh, going back and all your old, old discussions. About
that's right.
Like Griff Garrison is the superior Hollywood blonde.
That's right. I Varsity Blonde.
Varsity Blonde, sorry. Hollywood Blondes, that's the successful version of his father.
I was going to give Andrew Rich his worst homework assignment of all time. And
go listen to 2019 TV reviews and find the times where I bring up Griff Garrison. And,
yes, being the superior Varsity Blonde. But anyway, we can continue with the show. I've had that written down in my notes, and I made it a point that I was going to bring that up. So I was right again.
There you go. Pat yourself on the back like Barry Horowitz there. There you go.
I do. Yes, absolutely.
Anyway.
How can you not?
So that is AEW Instant Reaction Live again next week for AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts. Let's move on to the world of, we got a lot of ways to go here. I'm not going to, well, we could do G1, but I'm going to hold G1 off for a little bit. I want to talk about RevPro. I want to talk about RevPro Epic Encounters 2023, the world of European wrestling. Let's bounce over to the UK here for RevPro's Epic Encounters 2023 from York Hall. Main event was Michael Oku versus Great Okan. Your semi-main event was Will Ospreay versus Leon Slater. You had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jordan Breaks. A lot of stuff up and down the card. Joe, you and I both watched the show. What do you think overall of the show before we maybe get into some of the top matches? I'll start with the main event here in a bit, but what do you think overall of RevPro Epic Encounters 2023? Because I thought it was a really fun show. I really enjoyed it. Had a lot of tropes that kind of got, well, we'll talk about it in a bit. There was something that happened in just about every one of the matches that maybe was a little bit of overkill, but, largely keep an eye on RevPro, man. There's a lot of good stuff going on in that company. Production value is good. The commentary on this show was really good. They're bringing in a lot of guys that, cast-offs from NXT UK. They're about to have their biggest show ever in August on the heels of All In Wembley at the Copper Box. So there's a lot to like about RevPro. But what do you think overall of Epic Encounters?
I thought this show rocked and was very well booked. And, and I know there were some repetitive finishes. I know that's where you're going with that. And we'll get into that when we review the show. But I thought that, look, this is going to sound like a weird comparison. And I did think the final two matches were legitimately great. The Will Ospreay Leon Slater match and the main event with Oku ending the 5-year undefeated streak of the Great Okan and winning the RevPro title.
Did you do the same thing I did where I'm like, there's no way. Let me look. Let me make sure. And it's true. It is.
That's 5 years. Yep. Yeah. 2018, June 2018. Those were great matches. But as far as the rest of the show, it really reminded me of vintage, your Big Brother's Dragon Gate, where everything is really good and everything has a purpose and everything is like between 3.25 and 3 3/4 stars. And a Rich Craig special, a show where everything is at minimum where the floor is pretty good. And from that standpoint, now obviously the wrestling style is nothing like Dragon Gate. That's where the comparison ends. But it was a very un-RevPro-like show in a lot of ways too, because I've been watching all of the RevPro shows, or at minimum the top matches from just about every show this year. And RevPro shows are a lot like mid-aughts Ring of Honor, in that sometimes when you watch a RevPro show, it could be mentally exhausting because in every match, everyone's going 110% and it's super work ratey. And remember, sometimes you'd get like an ROH DVD and you got to take a break like halfway through. You're like, all right, I got to finish this tomorrow.
Right. Some of those 2007 shows, I loved them, but like the opener would be like, Eric Stevens and Davey Richards, and they'd have a 25-minute match with 27 kickouts and stuff.
Stars,
and it ruled, and you're like, all right, that ruled, but like, God, I have 3 more hours of this. Like, I need a break here. I need to chill. So,
or like how, like a vintage Bola where you couldn't watch it in one sitting because it's just too much. It's overload. That's what RevPro is like a lot of the time with their rank and file shows. I'm not suggesting the wrestling is as good, although it's better than you think it is. Okay. But it's that same kind of feel where it's just, this show I didn't think was like that. I thought every one of these matches told a very good physical story. I know that storytelling's a hot button topic in wrestling these days and everything, but this is old school pro wrestling where they tell a physical story and each match had its own little story. There were some repetitive finishes that we'll get to. I thought all of the angles they ran were hits and ended up being home runs, both for the live crowd and in terms of building interest in the Copper Box show. We'll get to all those as well. And top to bottom. And then again, the semi and the main, the Will Ospreay Leon Slater match, the match itself, the story of the match, and then all of the shenanigans that took place. It's like one of those rare matches that has a ton of interference that I still think is like 4.5 stars.
Oh, for sure.
Everything
Because I was ready when the match was awesome, by the way. We'll talk about it in here in a sec. The match was fucking awesome. And then they do a ref bump, and I'm like, here we go. Match sucks. Not that the match sucks now, but it's like, they sucked all the air out of this. And then people are interfering, and shit's happening, and things are happening, and things are, and then they got me back, and I was like, I don't care. It's actually good again. Like it for a brief moment, I'm thinking, damn it, they ruined it. And I'm like, no, they didn't. They enhanced it. It ended up being, in the end, that's a hell of a match. Not enough people are talking about that match. I can't believe it. That match,
because Rich, no one's watching these shows.
Yeah, so hopefully we can help get you to watch it, because you have to watch Will Ospreay and Leon Slater. You have to.
Yeah,
you got to watch Michael Oku and Great Okan too. To be honest, you got to watch both of those. But you have to watch Ospreay and Leon Slater. I cannot believe that more people are not talking about this match.
I could see Oku and Khan annoying some people because it got a little long in the tooth. Because I'm super invested in the promotion, though, that didn't bother me.
I guess if you parachute in for Okan and Oku, you might not get it. Oku's you got to get it. If you don't get it with Oku, because there's a lot of people that, we last year, talked about the Oku Ospreay match, and that match did very well in our match of the year. And anybody that knew anything about RevPro or knew Michael Oku or knew anything about the British wrestling scene, that was like their match of the year. They thought it was just an unbelievable match, incredible match or whatever. There were a lot of people that kind of floated on in and were just like, I don't quite get it. And I get it, because if you don't get Oku, if you don't understand Oku, if you don't understand what the build has been for Oku, I can understand how you might not, be invested in it. But I'll give the commentary credit. They did a great job of telling you why you should care about Michael Oku in this match. And they talked about from where he was 5 years ago, from where he was today, to what he's done in between, and all the things that has happened to him in the time, and in the breakup of his tag team, and the match with Ospreay, and the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, and all these sort of things. And here he is now with this opportunity to finally win this title and break a 5-year, So I could see how, if you floated in, you might be like, I don't know if I quite get it. And it's a little long in the tooth. But I still think the commentary did a good enough job, and I think if you keep your mind open, I think there's a lot to like about Oku and Okan.
Yeah, and especially if you have any investment in the promotion and the undefeated streak, and and they kind of accidentally got here because whether it was Ricky Knight Jr.'s broken wrist or whatever it was when he was supposed to face Okan, maybe he was supposed to end the undefeated streak, but then he got hurt, and then Okan wins the title, the vacant title, over his brother. And maybe this Oku-Okan match, that's a weird back-to-back names to say, it was never meant to be, but it ended up happening, and it ended up being Oku ending the undefeated streak. And it was a big moment for the company, and the crowd responded to it. And it had some overbooking at the end too, I guess. Well, I didn't feel like it was over. A lot happened, but
I didn't think so. I think for a moment like this, when you have a guy who's really pretty much worked his entire way up the ranks in a Michael Oku, from opening matches to tag teams to singles things, all the way up to this point, and a guy who's been undefeated for 5 years, I think you need to have it be as big and boisterous as possible. So no, I didn't think it was overbooked at all. I thought that's what you needed to do.
It's and I guess we should just talk about it. We'll start there with the main event. So it's Okan's undefeated for 5 years. He's a champion, and he really does have a certain kind of energy when he's in this promotion. And United Empire are heels here. I know that they're kind of like face-leaning tweeners in New Japan now, but here they're heels, especially Okan and Gideon Gray. There's nothing babyface about them at all.
Crowd is not going to cheer for Lord Gideon Gray or anybody associated with him.
Ospreay's a heel too, but he's a little more shade of gray. But, Okan and Gideon Gray and the rest of the United Empire are firmly heels here. And Oku is the purest babyface you can possibly have. And, he's got his wife/valet out there. And, Oku's got him beat, and Gideon Gray jumps in the ring to save his guy. And they were teasing that was, going to be Okan's opening. And, and Oku accidentally did the dive on his valet. And that looked like it took her out. And it looked like, Okan was going to survive it. But Oku locked him in that single leg crab, and he wrenched it in. And his wife took out Gray. And what's her name? Amira. I can never pronounce her name. Amira. And I'm avoiding saying her name because I never pronounce it right. Amira is her name.
Yep.
So she takes out Gray at the end with the big pop, and he leans back with a single leg, and Okan truly has no escape, and he not only beats him, he taps him, and he wins the title. And it was a great match and a great moment, and the whole babyface locker room came out to congratulate him. And Trent Seven puts the belt around his waist, and then he hits him with the ripcord, whatever he calls his version of the Rainmaker. I don't remember what he calls it. And everybody, that's a big angle. So it looks like has that been made official for Copper Box? Is that our title match?
I don't believe that is official quite yet for that show, but yeah, you can put two and two together and assume that is indeed where they're going with that match. So
let me take a look.
Yeah,
it's not official.
Yeah, I looked before we started the show, and they hadn't really went official with all the matches so far. So I think they're gonna wait a little bit for that one. But
he had one earlier in the night. Trent Seven.
Yeah, he beat Shaw Samuels. And they talked about it. And a lot of time during that match, they said, hey, it's a big time match. These are big, two big contenders. The win here might get the guys over to the next level. And that's what I was going to say about RevPro, where you said the work is definitely better in RevPro right now, because they have a lot of the old NXT UK guys, a lot of the guys that left the scene in shambles and bounced over to NXT UK to do whatever that is. Those guys are slowly starting to come back, and a lot of them are pretty high-level workers. Say whatever you want about Trent Seven, but adding Trent Seven to your roster is going to make it a better roster. He's a good worker. He's a good, very good wrestler. Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, you add them to your tag division. Impact is seeing that as well. Like it's invigorated Impact, and it absolutely has invigorated RevPro as well. So just little by little, kind of sprinkling these guys back in is helping, make the whole thing feel a little better. It makes it feel like a little bit more of a professional operation, where there would be times where RevPro during the height of NXT UK, where RevPro's undercard was like, a wasteland. And most of those guys, a lot of them did work their way up and got better and trained and are now, part of the bigger part of the show. But adding those guys, you want to be able to add those guys. It raises the tide all over the play. When you get Trent Seven, Morgan Webster, Andrews, those sort of guys back in the mix. The RevPro roster is quietly one of the best in the world. It's a really good roster.
Listen, even the smaller shows where some of these bigger stars like Subculture, who work a lot of Impact and who aren't always around, even the rank and file shows, they have so many good, young, talented, literal children, like teenage wrestlers. Some guys that weren't even on this show, like Callum Newman, didn't wrestle on this show. He did corner Will Ospreay, but he didn't wrestle on the show. JJ Gale didn't wrestle on this show. He did do an angle, but he didn't wrestle on the show. I don't know if you've seen Cameron Kai yet, but you need to go out of your way to see Cameron Kai. I've written about him behind the paywall. Again, these are like teenagers in some cases. Leon Slater, who did wrestle on the show, and obviously they have huge plans for him based on how that match was booked and laid out and how everything went. And I'm not even naming them all. They have about 6 to 8 of these extremely young wrestlers who are hungry, who are between the ages of 17 and 21, all over these shows. And you have to watch some of the smaller shows to see them, because they kind of get squeezed out on some of these bigger shows sometimes. But I'm hoping all of these guys get an opportunity on the Copper Box show when all eyes will be on the promotion. And we already know JJ Gale is going to be on the show because they shot the angle, and he's going to be wrestling Kosei Fujita. Yep. And I think that's a great test for Gale and a great match for him, because we know Kosei Fujita is the real deal. That guy fucking rules. Okay. And Gale can be spotty sometimes, and a lot of these kids can be. They're kids. They brought in that Leighton Buzzard, who isn't as young as these other guys. He's been around the block a few times, but he's been wrestling for ICW and in Scotland and shit, places that nobody's really paying attention to in our circles. And, they brought him in for that open challenge with Ospreay, and now he's in the mix, and he's part of the mix with these. And he's another guy who is an excellent wrestler. So, and all these guys always give maximum effort on these shows. And oftentimes, Luke Jacobs, I've talked about him a ton.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
And, I thought Tom Lawler did a great job kind of slowing him down, because the one thing with Luke Jacobs is he's always 1,000 miles per hour, and he's always trying to have that 2006 ROH match. And I think that sometimes is to his detriment, even as good as he is. And Tom Lawler really made him wrestle at a slower pace. And those two guys just went out there and had an excellent wrestling match. But Jacobs is another one. Connor Mills has come a long way. The roster's loaded. And when they bring in these bigger names like your Trent Sevens and your Flash and your Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Websters and people like that for the bigger shows, Zack Sabre Jr., man, that what you get is a show like this, which delivered top to bottom with some really cool booking too. So I'm hoping that your Cameron Kais and your Leighton Buzzards and your Callum Newmans get an opportunity at the Copper Box to work that show. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. There's going to be plenty of New Japan talent. There already is. And they're going to need to sell some tickets. So they're going to have to put people like, Trent Seven turns heel and clotheslines Oku. We got to figure that that's going to be the title match on the show. And it's the right decision. You got to put your bigger stars on there. Trent Seven, I think, is a solid. The Euros hate him. And I don't know if there's some kind of fucking weird cancellation thing that I'm missing out on, or maybe it's just still heat because he was a WWE guy and was pretty outspoken about it. That's probably has more to do with it, right? With the Trent
I think it's a
Seven
little bit
thing
A, a little bit of B. I forget the A part. There's something with it, but yeah, I lost track of when Britt Rest got canceled or not. Soft
Those
canceled.
Euros are so fucking grumpy. It's and I
but
I don't want to get into it.
He was also one of the biggest like chuds about the WWE thing, where people were like, "Hey man, you're destroying the scene." And he's not as much as Pete Dunne, but he was right there neck and neck with Pete Dunne, being like, "No, this is good for British wrestling," and everyone's like, "It's not. It's clearly not. How could you say it's good for British wrestling?" And it, of course, was not good for British wrestling at all. So now him coming back into that scene and saying, "Hey, I'm back now," like I get why that would. So turning him heel is probably the best way to go because people fucking hate this guy's guts. So why don't you just do it? Probably going to work out for the better.
I think the Twitter hardcores, without question, hate his guts. I don't know about your rank and file ticket buyer. I do know too when he popped up in AEW for that taping, people acted like they brought in Satan. I was like, what did I miss? Like, this guy's pretty good. I don't know what the big deal. Like, I don't mind having him around, but again, kind of that whole crowd, they've been burned so many times when it comes to the WWE thing, when it comes to speaking out. That was just a double bullet to the head to that scene, and I can understand why a lot of those fans are just so put off by everybody and so slow to come around. But from my standpoint, I don't know. I don't have anything against Trent Seven. If they want to bring him into RevPro and put him in big time matches, I thought the heel turn worked, and I think that could be a really good title match and a supporting match for that Copper Box show. But that was the main event. Let's just go through some of these other matches.
I will say one of the interesting parts about the main event too. So like you said, the babyface locker room came out and Connor Mills kind of did the Owen Hart at the end of WrestleMania thing where he came out. And Oku's like, come on in the ring, man. Like, water under the bridge. It's all good. Like, whatever. And Mills just kind of, because now this guy, he turned on Oku. Mills is supposed to be the guy
were tag team partners.
They were former tag team partners. Mills turns on Oku because he's ready to kind of progress his career and move forward without Oku. And now Oku gets to that mountaintop before he does. And there's that, jealousy or whatever that Connor Mills is doing well. He earlier in the night won the undisputed British Cruiserweight title. So he's got a title. But then at the end of the night, his former tag team partner, the guy he turns on, wins the main title. And is trying to say, "Hey, man, we're both champions. Come on in. Like, let's settle this." And Mills is still like, I'm not down with that just yet.
On him. Yeah. So it's not only that Mills won the Cruiserweight title in the opener, he beat a guy who was on the verge of breaking Oku's record for the longest Cruiserweight title reign. So there's that tie-in too. And Mills thought that like this was his big night. He wins the Cruiserweight title. And then, like you said, later in the night, it's kind of that Bret Owen.
It is exactly the Bret Owen thing. Owen gets the win over Bret in the opener of WrestleMania 10 and then, thinks that it's his night and his moment. And then Bret Hart wins the WWF title. And at the end of the night, everyone's like, come on, Owen, come on in the ring, celebrate with your brother. And he's like, fuck all of you. Fuck everybody. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's what I mean. A very well booked show.
Yeah.
From, and there's some other things too that I loved in terms of the booking. So the Oku Mills thing still kind of burns. And Mills is one of the most improved wrestlers in the world. I mean, he's just come such a long way.
Look, approach, charisma, everything. Just everything that you can ask for has drastically changed. But semi-main event, this is the match that you absolutely, if you have to watch one match from the show, go out of your way to watch this one. Will Ospreay, this guy never fucking misses. It's just like, it's unbelievable. And I didn't think he was going to miss here, but I didn't think he'd hit as well as he hit here. Because I like Leon Slater, but, there's some parts that are a little rough around the edges with Leon Slater. He's getting there. But
then he's 18.
He's 18, exactly. I was about to say, but he's 18. So it's like, you let it go. You're like, he's not a finished product, but he's fucking 18. So it's okay. But then he goes out here with Will Ospreay, the best wrestler on planet Earth, and then goes out there and has easily, like, to me, a 4.5 star match. I think, what'd you say, 4.25?
No, I'd go like 4.5 on this.
Yeah, it's fucking raw. It was just incredible. It was so good. And Slater is, because Will has now reached that point in his career where he's the big time powerhouse and he's the strong guy and he throws the big bombs and stuff. And now these other guys are selling for him like death. And Leon Slater, did he sell like Will Ospreay had just killed? I mean, every clothesline Leon Slater just sold perfectly. That hidden blade sell at the end of the match was fucking tremendous. Will Ospreay does the sickest Liger bomb you will ever see in your entire life. Just made me actively loudly go shit when I watched it. I just went, oh my god, shit, as he did this Liger bomb to the guy. He does a Tiger Driver 91. Twitter does not explode for this one, believe it or not. They only care when it happens in AEW shows, I guess. But yeah, Will Ospreay just doing everything he can, but knowing how Will likes to structure these matches with these young guys gave Leon Slater everything. I mean, Leon Slater kicked out of every move that you can possibly imagine. Will Ospreay threw everything at this guy. He kept kicking out, would get a little hope spot here and there, would get a little hope here and there. They do a ref bump. They do a thing where, you got people trying to help out Leon Slater, but then he actually hurts. And it's just, you got all these things going on, a ton of stuff going on, and still Will then, hits him one more time. He still kicks out. He still survives. And then finally, Will Ospreay just puts him away and wins the match. But it's one of those matches that, while it's over, while Will got the win, you're left going, God damn, he made a kid here in Leon Slater. He made a guy here in one night. And Leon Slater, yeah, all the credit in the world to him. He looked tremendous here. And Will Ospreay just continues to be the best wrestler in the world. Just the best. There's nobody on his level.
Nobody tries harder to make people than Will Ospreay. Nobody tries harder in that regard. He's just totally unselfish. He's from the Ric Flair mold. He's from, the elite, never wanting to win in early AEW and put everybody else over. And this was just, the early part of the match was Will Ospreay just dominating the kid and, pinning him with like a knee on his chest and not taking him too seriously. And we've all seen this kind of story before. And, then we had the ref bump.
What I will say, one thing I liked about the early part of the match is Leon Slater kicked out at one a bunch of times because Will wasn't even giving him like real pinfalls. He would do like a hip toss and then put like one little, and instead of doing the 1-2, because sometimes I get annoyed by that. Like, why is almost every pinfall is a 1-2? Whereas this guy would get up from one and just be like, oh, come on, man, you're pinning me with a, you didn't do anything to me. And you're pinning me with a knee on your chest. Like, no, it's not, I'm not going to let you get two on me. No, get the fuck out of here. Which I like. It immediately established that Leon Slater was a guy, you know what I mean? And that Will was kind of playing with his prey here, you know what I mean? Like, you could put him away, but just was like, this guy sucks. I don't have to do anything really.
But then it's like he couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
And then, they did the ref bump, and then he went for like whatever it was, the low blow, whatever cheap shot that he gave him. And then all the shit started because Callum Newman was out there cornering him. But then Dan Maloney comes out. And if you remember, Dan Maloney was United Empire, but now he quit United Empire and attacked TJP and Francisco Akira, and he joined Bullet Club. And what did I say when that happened? He's going to have to eventually face Ospreay and answer for that. So, in this promotion, that's exactly what this was. So he beats up Callum Newman on the outside and throws him into the post. And then he gets involved in the match.
Throws him into the post. He grabbed him and threw him into the guardrails, and all the guardrails exploded. It was incredible. Drilla Maloney grabs this guy by the hair, throws him about 10 feet into the guardrail, and Callum Newman takes a huge bump here, and the guardrails just explode all over the place. It was just like, he felt like the big, and then he does that, and the crowd just going nuts. Like, yeah, Maloney, get his ass, get him.
Everyone's standing. The place, I mean, Maloney is so good and so intense, and his breakout was very predictable. It took him a couple New Japan shows to find his footing, but then he did, and now we know that they had bigger plans for him, and he really probably wasn't asked to show his personality until he did the turn, and now he's really showing it in both places. But then he gets involved, and him and Ospreay come to blows, and the finish of this match got me off of my couch. When he gave Slater that flying fucking hidden blade elbow in midair to the front of his face, I thought he decapitated him. It was one of those, it's not a hidden blade because it was like to the front, and it was just, they were both in midair. I can't even describe it.
You have to watch it. You have to, I know exactly what you're talking about. You have to watch it. It's fucking absurd.
It's fucking Will Ospreay. He's just great. I mean, I'm comfortable now saying he's one of the greatest wrestlers to ever walk the planet. He's an all-time great.
Unquestionably.
He's just an all-time great, and we're not even halfway through his career. And so he explodes Leon Slater's face and then beats him. But, so much coming out of this now, and with Maloney. And then Maloney's checking on Slater after the match. But he's fucking Dan Maloney, and he's a piece of shit. So he picks him up and gives him his finisher, his fucking pile.
Well, to be fair,
Drilla or whatever.
To be fair, Slater did. There was a spot in the match where Maloney was holding up Ospreay for Slater, and then Ospreay, dove out of the way, and Slater did hit Maloney. So he does have a little bit of justification.
Yeah, sure.
He's got a little justification here if he wants, but it wouldn't matter. He'd probably do it anyway because he's fucking Drilla Dan Maloney. But just in case he needed a reason, he's got a little bit of
but the idea was it was obvious that it wasn't Slater's.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just Maloney being a fucking asshole.
Maloney's a fuckface. Yeah, for sure.
All of this shit, if you watch the promotion, all comes together and makes sense. I mean, Slater and Maloney have had interactions before. It's just so well booked. It's just great. And then the match was great. All of this was red hot. And I just felt like I watched, something that was a borderline match of the year contender. I mean, obviously it's not going to be able to touch the Ospreay Omega matches or anything like that. But, it's one of the, it'll go down as one of the best matches of the month without question. It's classic Will Ospreay in a great booking scenario. They set up future storylines. I mean, he had his young boy at ringside, and then that had a purpose for Maloney to beat him up. It was just everything about this landed. Everything about this was great. And does this mean that we're going to get Dan Maloney versus Leon Slater at the Copper Box? I don't know. Possibly. But Leon Slater was elevated to another level here with this loss. This is one of those losses because he's in there, with the top stars, and his performance was great. And he's now been successfully elevated with this match in this promotion. So this all worked for me. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jordan Breaks. Jordan Breaks does World of Sport kind of shit, and he actually looks like a World of Sport
guy. He does. He's like he's this weird looking, pale British guy that comes out, and you're just like, yep, this guy's gonna do some World of Sport shit, and then he does. It's like you see him, and you're like, yeah, here we go. They're gonna mention Jim Breaks. Drink once they mention Jim Breaks. You know what I mean? It's like gonna happen in any second now. So yeah, but it works.
He's got a shaved head, but he still has sideburns, and he's
it does look like
he's very pale. He's very much looks like you're watching
no muscle mass at all. Just
none whatsoever. And he's doing like fancy escapes from Zach's holds, and then he's going, hey, and like in his, like total fucking World of Sport shit. And so this was Zach's grappling and Jordan Gray. It was a change of pace for the card. And Zach wins, and then they did an angle and then a second angle. So JJ Gale comes out and they cut promos on each other, Gale and Sabre, and Gale's gonna face Fujita, Kosei Fujita, like we mentioned, which is Sabre's young boy in New Japan. I guess he's not a young boy anymore. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, he's a weird member. Yeah, he weirdly graduated.
Yeah, he said, I'm not a young boy anymore. And, so he's not, but, he's still a bottom guy in TMDK. But, so he'll be taking, that's a good matchup. And then when Gale leaves, RKJ shows up and he attacks Zack Sabre Jr. and hits his finish on him and everything. That match is official.
That's locked in. That is locked in. Yep.
So Zack Sabre Jr. versus RKJ, which is a very interesting match. So, that was good because people weren't expecting another angle because they thought the JJ Gale thing was the big angle, right? So it's like it was even more surprising when RKJ shows up, like out of the crowd or whatever.
Right.
Attack.
And one thing I'll say about all these angles is you had all these, but none of these really affected the match all that much. Like you got the match over with. Everybody got their match in. Yes, you had, some ref bumps and some interference in some of these, but none of the matches felt like they had and we just talked about like 4 different angles that they booked, but the matches themselves didn't get bogged down by any of these angles. They let the match happen and then the angles happen afterwards, which is fine with me. I have no issue whatsoever. RevPro has been known to kind of overbook at times. And in this case, yes, did they repeat a lot of like heel turns or guys coming out at the end of matches? They did, but they all were kind of self-contained away from the match itself, which I did appreciate.
Yeah. So, that was Saber and Breaks. I didn't watch. Did you watch the women's match? I didn't watch.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. I won't lie. Alex Windsor. At the end, they did another similar thing where Alex Windsor's like kind of being nice throughout the entire time, and then she just becomes an absolute shitbag at the end of the match to win this. And I believe she defeated Hyon in the final. So it was Alex Windsor and Hyon. And now she has both titles. She has the Southside Women's and the Undisputed British Women's. But it was pretty good. Alex Windsor's is solid, and everybody played their role pretty well here. It probably the worst match on the show, but Windsor was good. So it was okay, but nothing that you need to go out of your way to check out.
So the Southside Women's probably just doesn't exist anymore.
I would imagine, they just tossed that thing to the side, yeah.
They've done with the other unifications.
Because Windsor is already the RevPro Women's Champion, so she might as well just keep that, and that Southside's done and move on with RevPro.
I was surprised the Southside Women's title still exists. I just didn't get around to merging them at any point, I guess. Tag team titles, I was a little surprised by this finish. I guess it means that Subculture is going to be working here at least on one more show. So Flash Morgan Webster, Mark Andrews defeat the Greedy Souls, Brendan White and Danny Jones, who were the tag team champions in the beginning. A pretty substantial push as two guys that are former their version of Young Lions that they have. They kind of copy the New Japan model, and Brendan White's a guy who came up through that. I think Danny Jones, let me double check. No, Danny Jones is the guy who's been around. But Brendan White, without question. Whatever happened to fucking, who's the guy who came up with Will Pennyfeather? Was that his name?
What did
remember that dude that he came up with? I think his name was.
Let me see if I can find.
They were young boys together. His when they came into RevPro.
Yeah, what the hell was that guy's name? I don't remember. I know who you're talking about.
It was the most British name of all time. It was Kenneth Halfpenny. Kenneth Halfpenny. That's the guy.
Halfpenny. I don't know what's up with Kenneth Halfpenny. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
What happened to Kenneth Halfpenny?
He hasn't wrestled since December of 2021, so I don't know what happened to Kenneth Halfpenny, but it's over. Oh, that's a great name, Kenneth Halfpenny.
That's the most British name, and he had a very British face. Kenneth Halfpenny.
Yes, he did.
The guy just looked very British too. But
yes, he did. He was a very unfortunate. He was a very unfortunate looking man. But
Kenneth Halfpenny.
But it worked. It worked for the business of wrestling. But
it didn't work. He was ridiculous. You knew the man wasn't going to make it. I don't know what happened to him.
No idea.
Yeah. But he must have. I feel like he wrestled Brendan White 1,000 times. It maybe was only once or twice. But I feel like they wrestled each other. I
do. I feel like every time we previewed RevPro, it was like Kenneth Halfpenny and Brendan White will be in the opener, and then, But I don't know what.
This surprised me. I thought Subculture was just coming in to put Greedy Souls over, but I don't know. They won the titles, which okay. Again, this is probably loading up that Copper Box show. You put Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster on that show. You get some names from the scene from years ago and guys who are, have worked WWE and now Impact. That's probably the idea behind this.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good move. And those guys are solid workers. I somehow, some way were able to escape all of the shit going on. We don't talk enough about Mark Andrews. He's in a punk rock band, pop punk band, as well as the British wrestling scene, and somehow escaped speaking out. He must be the nicest man on earth.
Well,
because both those scenes,
normal, I guess. Maybe he's just a normal person.
A sex pest. I know, but it's nobody else in that scene. Nobody else in either of those scenes couldn't not be a sex pest. So he somehow found a way to be the only human being to be in both of those things that were filled with sex pests and not be a sex pest. So,
well, all right. Well, congratulations to Mark Andrews for just being a guy.
Being a sex pest. When all of your peers are, I don't know. You got to tip the cap. I'm afraid I have to tip his cap.
I can't tip a cap for that. I'm not tipping a cap.
That's fair. That's
for
fair.
Just being a normal person.
For not being a nonce.
Yeah. I can't hat tip that. Luke Jacobs versus Filthy Tom Lawlor. Again, I thought that Tom Lawlor took Jacobs out of his comfort. Jacobs just wants to go and be a little fucking mini Walter. And, I saw him have a match versus Gabe Kidd where they just did entirely too much. They were probably so excited to go in there and have their 2006 ROH match, and they did. Let me tell you, But I thought Lawler really slowed him down, and he comes in and he puts him over. Luke Jacobs is going to be a player here moving forward, and he's earned it. And he beats Lawler, who knows probably isn't going to be back. So that's what you do. You bring in a guy like Filthy Tom, and then you put one of your guys that you're going to be pushing moving forward over a guy like that, and that's what they did.
Yeah, it was good. And Lawler came out in he had his normal gear, but it was all American flag. So he was being a troll here, as he was wearing American flag short shorts and American flag top or whatever. And yeah, they had a really, really fun match. Lawler's great. Anytime you can book Tom Lawler, you should book a Tom Lawler.
He wore that stuff on the Independence Day New Japan Strong shows in Corkin too. So
just to be an ass, just to be an asshole. I love it. Yeah, it's good.
What was the date on this show? The 9th or something like that?
This was, let me get it, was the 9th.
So
yeah,
he
9th,
went from,
yes.
So those other two shows were the 4th and the 5th, and he flew to the UK and and brought the same gear. Next was the Trent Seven Shaw Samuels match. This was just a match. I mean, it was like you said, they pushed it as two veteran top contenders, and we should have seen what was coming once Trent won the match. I think he used like a low blow, because Mills used a low blow in the opener when the referee's back was turned to set up the win over Robbie X. And then they did a very similar finish with Trent Seven and Shaw Samuels. So
I want to say he also put his feet on the ropes too. I think that's how he eventually got the win. Yeah, I think I don't know if I forget if he used a low blow, but I know I'm almost positive he put his feet on the ropes and got the 1, 2, 3, and people were like, man, that's a little weird. Why do you have to do that or whatever? But it all made sense later in the night.
Yeah, it was all some foreshadowing for where, they were taking him. So, and then the opener was Connor Mills and Robbie X. Robbie X might be one of the most underrated wrestlers.
He's so good. Yeah, he's really, really good.
He just doesn't have much of a look, and he doesn't have any charisma. He works every opener on every RevPro show, but he's really, really good. Like, he just goes out there and has really good matches every time. And he's been the cruiserweight champ for a long time. He defends it on a lot of smaller shows. They pushed the idea that he was chasing Oku's record. And here's Connor Mills, Oku's former tag team partner, ending Robbie X's reign. He did the low blow. So, Mills, the heel finish here, and a little extra heat, ending the babyface title reign with the low blow. And then we talked about how later on, Mills feels like his night was overshadowed when Oku wins the big title. So that's going to be one of the overriding stories in the promotion moving forward. So they do a nice job of that. It's getting away from stories that, but not forgetting them.
Right.
And
everything matters. And everything matters in this company. And I love companies where that's the case. Love the companies.
Yeah. And, whoever's doing the booking now, whether it's Quilden, whether it's someone else, whether it's Osprey having a voice, whoever's doing the booking here now, RevPro has had periods where they very much relied a lot on outside interference and bullshit finishes, and they've really toned that stuff down over the last, I'll say, year or so. And there were some heel finishes here, but none of them were. And there was, they repeated a couple, finishes from match to match, and maybe there needs to be a slightly better communication on that. But overall, they've really cleaned that stuff up, and most of the stuff that they do in this promotion is logical and makes sense and adds to the matches instead of making you groan and it's taking away from the matches. Like the Trent Seven thing, he won a little dirty, but then later in the night he turned heel. So then you're like, oh, okay.
Right. So even if you were like, that was kind of a shit finish, you're like, oh, well, that's why it was a shit finish. Okay, that worked. Yeah. Most stuff pays off. They're not just doing shit to do shit, which is good. It seems like not a lot to ask for, but a lot of companies do not do that. You know what I mean? A lot of companies don't think that far and just do shit to do shit. The fact that they do stuff and most of it matters, later in the show or later in their booking is definitely pretty cool. So yeah, it was a great show. Great show. Go anyway. RevProOnDemand.com if you want to watch the show. Epic Encounters 2023. And as we said, they're coming up to here in August, end of August, having their biggest show of the year, their 11th anniversary show from the Copper Box. And yeah, it should be an absolutely loaded show and should be the highlight of the non-all-in Wembley weekend for sure.
3 matches official: Osprey Shingo, JJ Gale versus Kosei Fujita, and Ricky Knight Jr. versus Zack Sabre Jr. Maybe the elusive Zack Sabre Sr. can show up for that match in the corner. Zack Sabre Jr. against. It looks like on one of the house shows they've got Greedy Souls against Subculture in a mixed 6-person tag. So it looks like Greedy Souls are still feuding, or going to still be feuding with Subculture coming out of the show we just watched. That's coming up in what the fuck? I just lost my in Portsmouth, however you pronounce that. Oh, on the 30th of this month. And then there's a live in London in early August with nothing announced, and a show in Southampton, and that's it. Those are the last 3 shows before the anniversary show. So we'll have a pretty good idea, I think, of what they're going to do with the tag titles after this show on the 30th, which is in about 2 weeks. And then it sure seems like it's going to be Trent Seven versus Oku.
Oh, I would assume. Yeah, they're not doing that on a Southampton show or whatever, right? That's probably the main event of that show. So,
and then I don't know what they're going to do with Connor Mills, or maybe they do the Trent, it wouldn't make sense to do the Trent Seven match, because you could do Connor Mills, Oku.
That's still got time.
Show.
I think you still got a lot of time to build that one up.
I agree. I would have Oku beat Trent Seven on the anniversary show. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, and then maybe do Oku Connor Mills next time you're in York Hall or something like that. Is what I would do. But anyway, that's RevPro. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. That was a 3-hour and 40-minute show. And granted, I skipped one match because I was pressed for time. I groaned at the runtime, but then it flew by, because when you enjoy everything and everything's well booked, shows don't feel like a grind. And that show didn't feel like a grind at all.
No. It flew by. Definitely didn't feel like I wasted a second of my time. So definitely check that show out. RevPro Epic Encounters, RevProOnDemand.com. So we're a little low on time here, but we have a few more topics quickly. I think we can get these all done in about 10, 15 minutes here. MLW, Never Say Never. I watched the main event. You saw the entire show. This is MLW's pay-per-view from last weekend. Replay available at voicesofwrestling.com/fight. I saw the main event, so I could talk about that. Anything else on the undercard that you think we should check out, or anything that you would recommend?
Fatu Tankman in the opener for the national openweight title was exactly how you're probably picturing it in your head. Hard hitting, 2 guys who aren't afraid to get physical. Fatu then cut a promo after the match, really putting over Tankman, and he made it out like he was going off script doing it. With him, he probably was.
With him, there's a good chance he was.
He grabbed the mic and he was like, "These motherfuckers I'm not supposed to have this time." He did one of those deals, and he just put Tankman over, and they raised each other's hands. But that was a lot of fun. Delmi Exo defeats Ava Everett, and she's now a double champion, I guess, for that WXW title. That's fine. I don't really like Exo, so I didn't think much of it. Tracy Williams and Timothy Thatcher. This was a weird one because they did a 2016 Evolve Grapple Fuck match, but then they did a finish. They did a worked knockout finish, like where Williams was like distraught that Thatcher got knocked out. Am I making sense? Like Thatcher went limp and the referee waved it off.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And Williams sold it like, my grapple friend is not in good shape here, like that kind of thing. Like, and then Thatcher, cool. Came to
sounds awesome.
And it was completely flat and
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. A Timothy Thatcher thing did not get over in front of a live audience
in the ECW arena.
Right, stunned.
Because the crowd was hot for the rest of the show. I mean, and they're
molten for the main event. Yeah, they were molten for the main event.
This just didn't get over because I think it was a little too...
Because it never gets over. It's Timothy Thatcher. It never gets over.
I'm trying to be diplomatic. Like, the match didn't get over, don't get me wrong. But the finish definitely didn't get over because people don't want to cheer when they think someone just got paralyzed or something. You know what I mean? Like, it was a weird finish. It didn't work. They should leave that one in the holster. It didn't work. The country whipping match, Mance Warner and Sam... Again... Picture it in your brain.
Good old Mantaur.
Is Mantaur whipping Sam Adonis to heel, and the crowd going nuts for it. They enjoyed it, and then fans bring the weapons. Akira and Ricky Shane Page, they win the titles from the Samoan SWAT team, the Tongan Juicy Finau and Lance Anoa'i. Fans brought the weapon. Remember last week I said I brought a Sega Genesis to a fans bring the weapons match?
Yeah.
I shit you not, someone brought a Sega Genesis
Incredible.
to this.
Yes.
And it was wrapped up. I'm almost positive it was a Sega Genesis, the black, with the if it wasn't a Sega Genesis, I don't know what. It looked like Sega Genesis to me. And it was wrapped up in the barbed wire. And I thought that was funny. But they're still pushing the calling. Delirious got involved in this. And,
Great.
So
when you can push Delirious in the year 2023, you just gotta do it. Yeah.
When you can push yourself in the year 2023, we
Wow.
all know that he's got a hand in this. I mean, but he took some good bumps for Jacob Fatu, who was out there cornering his
I can
boys.
still work. I can still work for sure.
And then the main event. This was another show that really flew by. Like, it was a nice, it was only a 2-hour show, which was perfect for what this was. And nothing was terrible on the undercard. And then the main event I thought was pretty good.
I thought the main event was really, really good.
Go ahead. I've talked a lot.
I kind of went into it thinking, here we go. It's, and I like Alex Kane, but Hammerstone is a guy that Hammerstone's weird. Like, I think I don't like him, but then anytime I watch him, I think I end up kind of liking him. And this was worked at a very fun pace. I like this, a very different pace. Like you said, one of the things that was really cool about this match and cool about a lot of stuff that I watched this week is everything felt a little bit different. I watched a lot of different wrestling from a lot of different areas and a lot of different regions, and everything felt a little different. This was like a big time, old school, like American wrestling main event. Just two big lugs, just beating the shit out of each other. And that's kind of what this match was, with a molten hot crowd. If you're expecting, I'm going to watch this MLW show and there's going to be 50 people in the crowd and nobody gives a shit about MLW because who cares about MLW? Not the case at all. This crowd was molten hot on Alex Kane's side. They hated Alexander Hammerstone. They wanted him to lose so badly. And it made for a very, very fun match. And these two lugs just beat the shit out of each other, man. There's 22 minutes of them beating the hell out of each other. Big moves, big bombs, kickouts. It really worked. Like I'm stunned that I'm going to tell people that I recommend this match, but I really do. I think you got to go anyway and watch this. It was a very, very good main event, and Hammerstone is a guy that, again, like every time I sit down and watch it, I think, man, I'm not going to like this. I end up usually liking his matches, and Kane I thought was really good here, and yeah, the hot crowd just added to it, and this is a pretty good main event. So definitely, if you're it was a big deal too, because Hammerstone had been the champion for a long, long time. So it's a long time. It's a significant match, and if you kind of want to follow the world of wrestling at large and watch everything that's significant, you probably should watch this because it was a big time title switch.
And we always say it. The one thing MLW undoubtedly does well is they make their big stars feel like big stars. And Hammerstone feels like a big deal. His title reign felt like a big deal. And this Alex Kane push, I've been talking about it for a year. They've done him right, and they got him over. This motherfucker was over like crazy in that building.
Oh, I couldn't believe it.
Boom-aye chants. Mm-hmm. And Hammerstone knew that they hated his guts as much as they loved Kane. Hammerstone got the old same old shit chant that they used to give Bryan Danielson in ROH. They were chanting same old shit at Hammerstone, and he was eating that up. And he played heel here. And
he did the gimmick where he took his shirt off and he was about to toss it to the crowd and everybody was booing. So he said, fuck you, and just threw his shirt down. And none of you get my shirt then. I don't care. Yeah.
People probably don't believe it. This had a great great
crowd.
Face heel dynamic.
Yep. Great face heel dynamic and a great crowd.
Yeah. And they wanted Kane to win this fucking title. They may have rioted if this guy didn't win the fucking
I thought
title.
about that too. Yeah. They were all in.
They were so hot for this. I couldn't, because I haven't been watching. I stopped watching MLW when what network were they on? Reels.
Reels, yes.
Reels. That's the last I've seen of MLW because I looked at what they were, and it was all shit that was taped a million years ago. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop back in for the pay-per-view. So I didn't realize how hot Alex Kane had gotten. Maybe nobody did because this. And this is not like a wrestling crowd that just bought a ticket to a wrestling. No, these were MLW fans.
Yeah.
These people were wearing MLW t-shirts and Alex Kane
Well, they knew the chants.
And,
Alex Kane came out, and as he's coming to the ring, people are just in unison chanting, boom-ah-yay, boom-ah-yay. You know what I mean? Like, they were all in. He didn't have to get them to start chanting things. They were chanting it for him. So, no, it was...
Yeah. And they wanted this guy to win badly. And I don't know if... Look, they've run that building a lot, and... they've got their little fan base there in Philly. And, maybe the TV did help them a little, too, in getting people over and getting the promotion over. I don't know. They claimed it was a sellout, but they always claim it's a sellout. So I don't know how many people were there. Matt Stryker was fucking atrocious.
Oh, he's
that
so
has
bad.
to be mentioned.
So bad.
He just keeps getting worse somehow. I don't know how.
And Dombrowski, Joe Dombrowski, who did he's really good too. And it was like,
he's good.
You gotta get Matt Stryker out of there, please. For the God's sakes, we don't have to hear Matt Stryker in 2023 anymore.
You could probably get somebody cheaper too. I mean, but he's terrible. He's the absolute shits. He was going on his own little personal rants, like out of character. It was just, I can't remember any of them.
No, there was stuff going on. Yeah, Dombrowski would like ask him a question, and he's like, "Oh, well, I don't, who cares about it?" And then like something happened where Alex Kane did a move, and Stryker's like, "I'm sure you're going to defend that." And it's like, what are you talking about? I haven't. He's like, Dombrowski's just trying to be the straight laced, like babyface announcer. And Matt Stryker's trying like hell to try to make himself into some sort of heel announcer, Bobby Heenan, Jesse Ventura thing, and it's not working.
But he hadn't done that all night.
Yeah, he hadn't done it. Like, it was like out of nowhere, and Dombrowski's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't said anything." And he's like, "Oh, that's what you always say." And it's like, what is going on here? Like,
what about that one rant he went on where he's like, some people always try to tell you that they're working on themselves and making themselves better people. How about just live your life and be happy? And Dombrowski was like, he didn't know what to say. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know why he's started.
I don't. He's so bad. Go away.
There's something wrong with him, I think. I don't know. Something's going on with that guy. He was even worse than he usually is. But, super hot main event. Shockingly hot main event and a new champion. And the crowd went nuts for he won. They did the big celebration. He had the whole Beaumaye Fight Club deal. So he had all.
Oh, the ring was filled with guys. Yeah, the ring was filled with guys, and everyone's chanting and going nuts and confetti and all. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. It was cool.
I will say this: his promo sucked. I will say that
it wasn't very good. Yeah.
He kind of drifted in and out of character, and his promo wasn't exactly an inspiring, hot new babyface champion promo. Should probably work on that a bit. But look, his push has been perfect from day one. He came in with King Mo originally, and his gimmick was he would do these suplexes, and King Mo would hold up a card like that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's the suplex assassin. He's the suplex assassin.
Yeah, and then King Mo, like always happens with him in pro wrestling, eventually just disappears from the promotion.
And then you go, what happened to King Mo?
And yeah, so they hooked him up with this Mr. Thomas, which is he was from the old Chikara tag team, the
Blaster McMassive or whatever,
whatever they were called, the
Devastation Corporation.
Yes, and so he's like his right hand man.
He was Blaster McMassive, by the way. I think the other ones.
Yeah. The other guy's out of wrestling.
Yeah.
O'Shea Edwards is the other guy that's part of the crew, and it's over. It's over big time, and it's again, you can knock MLW for a lot of things. You really can. You cannot knock them for they know how to push a guy to the top, and they know how to make their top guys feel special. Jacob Fatu still feels special. Hammerstone and now Alex Kane. They have another one. And Judge, before he left, Ndoku, he felt special.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the thing about Fatu and him still feeling like a huge star is that elevates the national open weight title. It makes that title feel like a big deal. And like you're watching something of importance because Fatu is a big deal. So, look, is this the show of the year? Absolutely not. Is the main event something that I think people should make time for? I do. The rest of the card, you can probably skip it, but nothing was bad. I mean, Tracy Williams, Timothy Thatcher was probably the worst match because the finish was so awkward, but there was nothing on this show that I could rip apart because I'd be happy to. I just can't.
We do have to mention the newest Court Bauer thing. Don King, yes, that Don King appeared at the show because he is I
don't know how Court does it.
He is the backer of Alex Kane. The real Don King.
Of the Beaumaye Fight Club. Yeah.
The real Don King was there. So
the actual real Don King is part of MLW canon.
How does he do that?
He's the promoter of the Beaumaye Fight Club, Rich.
Yeah.
What do you mean, what's he doing there? So, I don't know how Court Bauer does it.
How did he get... Don King is like 94. He has enough money to last him forever, I'm sure. is still making money hand over fist with all of his stuff that he's doing, I'm sure. And here, how did he do it?
Don King is 91 years old. 91.
How does Court do this?
Only in America.
Yeah.
That Don King.
It's
He
part
don't
of
care.
MLW.
He just cashes the check.
Yeah, I wonder if he said, hey, I'll buy 1% of your company knowing that this WWE lawsuit thing is coming and he's going to get one last payday before he kicks the bucket here. You know what I'm saying? Like, one more payday for Don. It would make sense. He'd say, hey, I'm going to give you a $100,000 loan for, X amount percent of the company, and then I'm going to get a payout here once WWE settles with you. And they were like, yeah, sure. Can we film you? Sure, whatever. I don't care. It's Don King, man. As long as the check clears, he'll do it. So
there's a article from The Guardian from a month ago on Don King. It says, here's the title. At 91, Don King still longs for the spotlight. Yeah, well, that tracks.
In the world, yeah, there's no bigger spotlight than the world of MLW.
Yeah. Yeah. So New York Post had a story 4 days ago. Inside Don King's surprise entry in pro wrestling with the new MLW champion.
Wow.
Quote, perfect moment. So here's why you bring in Don King. Because you get in the New York Post, right? You get in the Guardian. You get publicity because it's Don King. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
He does it. I don't know how you call Don King.
I don't know what they're paying him, but
yeah, I don't either. But yeah, it's apparently worth it. I'm saying that my man's got points in this company. There's no doubt about it that Don's getting a percent here.
Don King?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he don't even know what he's doing. He didn't look too enthusiastic about the appearance.
Well, it is still a payday, but
he just had a kind of shitty mug on his face, and he's just like, there wasn't much to it.
No. Well, he's 91. What do you want out of the guy?
Maybe his family's just putting him up to it. He don't even know what he's doing.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's possible too. Hey, good for MLW. The Court has he wrangled Low-Key. He wrangled Teddy Hart. He somehow gets Fatu to show up, and now he found
Don King.
How do we get Don King involved? Actual Don King involved in 2023, and not even just like, can we use your name and say that you're a backer? No, like literally Don King shows up on the show. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
On screen, Don King.
Oh dear God! All right, so that is MLW. We talked about that real quickly. Inspire. I watched their Ecstasy of Gold show that was on independentwrestling.tv. We of course interviewed Biss, the booker and promoter of Inspire. We talked to him a couple weeks ago on this show. Was able to watch the entire show. A pretty good show overall for them. This is obviously their anniversary show, so they're celebrating their anniversary. I will say something that you would enjoy. They had about a 10-minute video. I believe it's on their YouTube channel as well. Just going over the history of Inspire Wrestling, and there's so much stuff in there that I'm sure you would enjoy watching. Knowing that we've covered this promotion since day one, and I know you went to several shows as well. But yeah, the talent that came through those doors over the years is pretty wild, and they do a really good promo package, basically going year by year in Inspire's history and talking about everything that happened in the company. So definitely recommend checking that out. But as far as the show itself,
by the way, not booking people after they've made it either. In most cases, the talent that's come through there got their first break there, or their first push in an indie there, or it was someone that they believed in as a young wrestler, and then they go on to do big things. So that's important too, because anybody could just go book names,
right,
and then stick them in a video package. But this was a promotion where where they brought in Sammy Guevara from South Texas, and they gave Ricky Starks his first push, and
Keith Lee was a big part of early days.
Yeah, Keith Lee, and Ray Rowe, and people like that. You go right down the line. So Athena, she had already been established in Austin, but that was someone else that they were using in early. So you go right down the line.
But yeah, great video package. So I think that's on their YouTube channel as well, if you want to check that. As far as the matches that you need to watch, you need to check out, I'll say the undefinable title match, Inspire undefinable title match, Will Allday versus Kevin Knight. Very good. Very, very good. Kevin Knight played the heel in this match, so it's a little bit different than what you're used to with Kevin Knight. But yeah, he looks fantastic. He's a guy that I think is he's not all the way there just yet. He's still got to refine some things, and it's not a complete package just yet. But you could tell there's some talent on this guy, and you could tell that he's gonna figure it out pretty soon. And he was, I thought, spectacular in that match. And Will All Day, he was selling most of the match, and that was kind of the gimmick of the match, that he came in with a hurt knee and a hurt back or whatever. So he wasn't as spectacular as I've seen him before, but he was solid as hell in this match, and good. Yeah, so a really, really good match. It went about 17 minutes. Will All Day got the win to retain the undefinable championship. But you didn't want Kevin Knight to win this title. He was just kind of coming in, from New Japan Strong or whatever. But good stuff, that match for sure. Yuya Uemura and Danny Orion, 15 minutes and 36 seconds. Yuya obviously getting the win. They just beat the ever living shit out of each other. This was, if you're looking to buy Uemura stock, or you're not quite done with him, or you're not, you still think that this guy has a chance to be something big and he's going to return to New Japan and all that sort of stuff. This is a match that makes you think, oh man, when they're ready, when New Japan says, hey, we want you back, and he comes back to New Japan, man, he's so good. He is so good. And yeah, him and Danny Orion, who I haven't seen a bunch of Danny Orion, but he was really good here, and they just beat the ever living shit out of each other in 15 minutes. A really, really cool finish as well, where Yuya put him in an armbar, and Yuya was like, instead of just locking him in the armbar and wrenching back, like Yuya Uemura is like moving around the armbar and trying to jump up and down and just kind of just wrench his arm like completely out of its socket, and then Danny eventually has to tap out and loses the match. So yeah, definitely check out that match. And the main event, I can't fully recommend the main event. It was a title ranking match. Biss talked about it. It was a pretty big deal in Inspire history, and a really cool idea for a match type where you put two champions together. And they did this with, I believe it was Ricky Starks and Keith Lee many years ago.
Yes.
And they both have titles, and whoever wins that match, whatever title they own is now the top title in the company. So it'd be like in 1991 or whatever, if you had Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan or whatever, the WWF title versus the Intercontinental title, and Bret Hart won, well then fuck, the Intercontinental title is now the top title in the company. And that's sort of what they're doing here. Neither of these people were Hulk Hogan or Bret Hart or whatever, but that's the idea. And it's a really cool concept. I love it as an indie concept. I think it's really, really awesome. So it's Rachel Rose versus Dmitry Alexandrov. And it just didn't quite, and it's intergender, and my thoughts on intergender. I know your thoughts on intergender. It was just clunky, and I think Rachel Rose is really good. Dmitry, I'm kind of meh on. I've seen him a couple times. I'm not fully in on him. And I'll give credit to Rachel. I think she did a really good job in this match. She sold well. She had good offense, but there's always a limit on intergender. So it was a 20-minute main event. She got the win. It was a very emotional moment for somebody that, grew up through the ranks of Inspire and worked herself there. And now she is this champion, and it's the top championship in Inspire. Like the story all makes sense. It's just, I always have a limit with intergender, and these two just didn't seem like they could get on the same page or just really get a flow going. So I did not love the main event. Can't fully recommend that one, but can definitely recommend Will All Day, Kevin Knight, Yuya Uemura, and Danny Orion. And then a few of the other matches on the show were solid, but if you're pretty pressed for time, I would say those two matches definitely go out of your way to check out. For you, though, and for people that are interested in kind of the history of Inspire that we talked about, there's an Ethan Price, Exodus Prime, and Stephen Wolf versus the Great Depression, Hollywood Strangler, and Red Scare match. That's just a throwback to like early days Inspire. So definitely go and check that match out with some Great Depression, who we talked about a lot with Biss. But yeah, overall, I mean, a fun show. I'm glad I was able to watch it, and it's a lot of the other stuff that I didn't really, mostly pressed for time here. A lot of stuff that I didn't talk about wasn't bad. I think everything was pretty good. But yeah, if you're really looking at what matches should I watch in that show, the Will All Day, Kevin Knight, and the Yuya Uemura versus Danny Orion are definitely ones to watch. Everything else, it's up to you and what time you have.
Yuya Uemura gets rave reviews here. Rave reviews.
He was so
everybody
good.
Involved in the project.
He was really good.
Yeah, he rave reviews, and I was told that's a must-watch match because he basically makes Danny Orion here. And,
yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. Because I've never seen... I may have seen Danny Orion once or twice or whatever. I thought nothing of this guy when it was over. I was like, that guy's good. And I was like, wait a minute. Is he good? I don't know. Maybe Yuya Uemura... Yeah, Yuya Uemura is... Like I'm saying, anytime New Japan wants to bring this guy back, if and when, he's ready, man. This guy's ready.
He's done with his little Texas run. He's back in Orlando, from what I understand.
Okay.
So, he doesn't live with Carl. He's not living with Carl, though. He's in Orlando and living with someone else, but still here on the excursion. I heard he stopped taking dates after a certain. He's not taking dates after a certain time period. Now that doesn't mean anything because it could just be waiting to see how the Impact dates shake out or whatever. But He's I've heard that he's not taking dates beyond the late summer, early fall. Read into that how you will. Again, it could just be waiting to see how Impact, which is his top priority, when and where they need him. So I don't know. Or it could be that he's coming back after the G1. So, just we'll continue to keep an eye on it because people are very interested in this whole Uemura situation.
All right, so real quickly here, we should have done an overrun this episode. I did not realize we had so many things that we still had to do. So the G1, that's coming up this weekend. I know it seems ridiculous that.
But what are we really going to say?
What are we going to say? The matches are going to happen July 15th. It starts. Previews up at voicesofwrestling.com. We'll review this stuff on the show. We'll talk about it. We'll check in and do all those sort of things as the tournament goes on. So it starts.
Yeah, I mean the
July
G1.
15th.
It starts this weekend. It's Sapporo like usual, and I don't know. The fucking G1 is starting.
It's G1. There you go.
Lot to watch.
So I don't feel bad about that one. So there you go. That was our G1 coverage. I do feel bad about the fact that again, this show, nothing like this show, man. There's no other show like this show. What other show is going to spend a half an hour on Mantaur and 40 minutes on CMLL and then just go, G1, yeah, whatever. But that's us. And the G1 does start this week. But two things we have to get through real quick, and then we can bid you adieu. I forgot about Slammiversary, but I guess we'll watch Slammiversary this weekend as well. I don't feel like going match by match on Slammiversary. We got a preview up at voicesofwrestling.com. I've kind of hand-waved Impact as of late, but it's Slammiversary, so I'll watch it, and we'll cover it next week probably, but no need to preview that show. But as I am watching on my side TV here, I'm watching Fortune Dream 8, the Kenta Kobashi produce show from a couple of weeks ago, and I see a man on my screen that, Joe, you wanted to talk about, so I will give you the floor. Okabayashi, Yuji Okabayashi.
Oh, so he's going on a hiatus or he's going away for a while.
Indefinite leave of absence is what is
there you go. That's the official verbiage. So he had his final two matches on the 29th and the 30th, both in was it Shinkiba first ring or was it
yes.
Anyway,
I think. Let me clarify that. But yeah, there were two. Yes, yeah, both in first ring.
So the first one was against Yasufumi Nakanoe, and he lost that one. He put Nakanoe over, and you're going to be surprised to know that it was pretty great. I went 4.25 on that. And then the next night, he beat Takuho Kato, so he won his going away match, and that one was even better. I went 4.5 on that. So, look, he's not calling it a retirement. This is a mysterious surrounding this. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if this is his escape plan from Big Japan. I don't know what's going on in his shoot life. And he'll just come back maybe in a year or two or whatever, or 6 months. But they really made a big deal of this. Everybody came out to the ring after both matches and everything. And he did make it a point to put Nakanoe over in the first match. A guy who's, the Big Japan I've been watching, he's been having a pretty decent year. And Okabayashi is someone who hasn't really slipped at all. I think Sakamoto has slipped a little bit from his peak a few years ago. Okabayashi has not. And, I don't know what his next move is. I don't know when he's going to be back. But these are two matches that are well worth going out of your way to see. It's classic Okabayashi. They're just kick-ass, meat-slapping matches with a lot of drama. And those crowds there, look, there's only 150 people there or whatever in that little building in Tokyo. But you would think that there's 1,500 people. They knew the significance of it, and they were red hot for both of those matches. And, you'll probably be hearing about more of them when I write up my little write-up for the June Notebook Roundup. Definitely the Kato match for sure. So, Yuji Okabayashi. I don't know when we're going to see him wrestle again, but he's had a very strong year. He had some other stuff earlier this year that I thought was pretty great. So, I'm glad he's not terming it a retirement because, he's clearly not showing any signs of decline. The guy's still great.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of his stuff, and I will watch these two matches now. Like I said, I'm kind of going through the list right now. That's why I'm watching Fortune Dream in the background as we're doing this show. A little Quiet Storm, Yuji Hino, Okabayashi. Like, this is my shit, man. These guys. Jeez. I'm looking in the corner, and they're just flexing and slapping each other. So I'm already in. Yuji Hino just flexed his his chest. So I'm in. Yeah, this is right up my alley for sure. But I want to watch it. And it's weird. Like you said, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. I know some people have speculated it's just maybe a way for him to get out of Big Japan. I don't know. I don't see it that way either. I don't know. I don't know what I see. I don't know what the next step is for this guy. But yeah, I'm glad it's not a retirement.
I don't see him popping up in New Japan.
No. I saw people doing that. I would be absolutely floored if New Japan thought that this was a guy they needed to add to their roster. And that's nothing against him. It's just more about how New Japan books and the type of talent they use and who they want to feature. And they don't need They don't need Okabayashi. I mean, anytime you can add an Okabayashi, you of course would do it. But New Japan is the last company in the world that needs that guy on their roster. Every other company in Japan needs him more. Every other company in the world needs him more than New Japan does. So I don't know. It's strange. I don't know what to make of it. Hopefully, it's just maybe he just wants to step away for a little bit and reassess and come back in a year or whatever. But I hope, like you said, I hope that we don't see the end of him because he's still really, really, really good. And the fact that he doesn't call it a retirement is definitely good. It definitely gives you a little bit of hope that he is coming back at some point. But yeah, he everything I've seen from him this year has been great, and I can't wait to watch these two matches too. So just wanted to bring that up because I know you wanted to talk about Okabayashi. So there we go. Yeah. That is it for us. We've covered many, many things here on this show. So again, Instant Reaction Live next week for AEW Blood and Guts. Make sure you subscribe. Flagship Patreon.com, Patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Also, previews, reviews, columns, all that other stuff available at voicesofwrestling.com, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord as well if you want to join in on the conversation there. And we're on all the dumb social media apps that nobody really uses anymore. We don't really use that much. So you can go on those if you want, but just follow us on the internet at voicesofwrestling.com. That is the best way to do it. Or subscribe to these podcasts on your podcast app of choice. That's probably the best way to stick with us and figure out what the hell we got to say about wrestling these days on the podcast and on the internet on the website. So that is it for us. Again, Instant Reaction Live next week, AEW Blood and Guts. That is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney. In every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.